5-1. Well, she was up 5-0. And then Stevens just won a game. So it was 5-1, I think 18:30 when we got up, right? Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another 5K tennis discussion. Today is Sunday, June the 4th, 2023. Hopefully everyone is doing well. We're going to jump right into French Open. This past week, as you know, we used to do shows every day during majors, and we've been working pretty hard at a couple projects going on where we teach. So it's been a busy week, but nonetheless, very glad to be here. All right, I want to revisit one specific topic to start today. A reminder of the frustration that Carla and I get when we've watched major tournaments, or any tournament for that matter, or really any sporting event, since the war in Ukraine has begun, the lack of handshake.
I didn't know how quickly you guys would come on. Hey, Darren, Red Hook Texan, Paul, Brandon, Ryan, M. Casey, Sergio, the one. The one. Look what I'm reading. I read it before, but that's an ambitious book. I read it, I don't know, 20 years ago, something like that. But I'm reading it again. At 7:30, Ham is going to have a call, and he's asked me to call in. Apologize for my appearance. I didn't really expect to be entertaining tonight. Hey, Matthew. Yeah, I think it could be, Matthew. I think it could be a good week ahead. I think Alpine is going down, but the lawyers can delay it. The lawyers can delay it, and I think we have to stop as much as we can. Stop, fixating on one thing each time. This is what I've been thinking over the last day or so. I think there's enough triggers in place. We don't know which one's going to cause it to tumble and go bad for the criminals. But anyway. I don't know what's the story, Will, with Canaccord Genuity. Is there... I must have missed something, because I don't... Paul. DBMM SEC OIP dismissed. History made. All right, Nico. Let me make sure that says OIP. That might say dip. Let me see quickly. That says OIP. Did the boom rattle me? The pilot crashed? Did something happen that I was watching tennis earlier. More accurately, I was listening to it. Djokovic won. If there's a plane crash, I didn't see it. Go Bama. Go Bama. Not Bama. Bama. Okay, let's see what Will said. GTI versus Canaccord Genuity and SDY. Friday night at 7. All right, so that must be something that Wes filed, and I didn't see it. I'll look it up. I was going to print out as much as I could and study those things tonight, but then we're doing this. I always run out of time. But that sounds intriguing, Will. Well, somebody just said DBM OYP. In MMTLP's back and forth. All right. I've got it. Will, I listened to that. I said maybe two things on that space call, and everything's going up into the nest. And I'm like, you can't read it on the phone. I can't. Anyway, I wanted to print some of that out. And then I'm also working on another completely unrelated project that I have to print a bunch of things out on. So I'm behind on my homework. I'm invincible. You're a loony. You're a loony. Yeah, the gnats. They in some bit of foolishness signed Steven Strasberg to a long-term deal. I think it was 7 years at $35 million a year, when they could have just let his other contract expire either 1 or 2 more years. He had already had a history of injury, but they did not insure it. So he's never going to pitch again. And he's pitched something like 30 innings since they won the World Series. That's been a big albatross. 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 We'll take 2 good humors, please. All I've got is albatross. Yeah, I haven't been to a game this year. I need to go. I ran into, when I was walking my dog, I ran into this. I was looking down with Lucky, but this other dog came up to him. And I always like meeting the other dogs. And he does too. But I do look at first to make sure there's not going to be unexpected excitement. But anyway, I looked up and it was a young father with his son in one of those, sitting in a, I don't know what you call it, but facing forward, hanging on his chest, and had a Nats hat on. But the kid was like what I remember, he's 18 months old, and I asked him if he had any favorite players, and the father said no. I've taken him to games, but he doesn't. I don't think he knows what's going on. But what I said to the dad was, for me, I don't know if it's true in your case, Will, but for me, I always remember that my dad took me to ball games, and I said it to him. I said he'll remember that you're taking him to the games all of his life. Wow. 67 Red Sox. I saw, was it Darrell Evans? Dewey Evans. Yeah, Dewey. I saw him play in Boston. I'm trying to remember the situation. I could probably look it up. But they were losing. And I said to the Tigers, I think it was Red Sox Tigers. And a bunch of us. And I said, Red Sox are going to win. And then Dewey Evans, I think, hit possibly 3, but I think he hit 2 home runs. Or he hit 1 home run that brought in 3 runs. I don't know. But he won the game. It was very exciting. Anthony, William, how are you? I told you he's buying all BBY Bing. So Colin is buying Bing, BBBY, Bed Bath and Beyond. All right, Anthony. So people should be looking into that. David Kurtzman, did you hear the sonic boom today from the fighter jets? I didn't hear it. Somebody just said it, David. I didn't hear it. Dwight. Yeah, Dwight Evans. That's what it was. Dwight Evans. Did they ever call him Dewey? I don't remember. Um, it's a weird thing getting just old enough that I feel like I'm talking about, hey Eric, I'm talking about somebody else when I'm talking about myself. It's like I don't really remember all that. Well, I love the Red Sox. You know what I remember, Will? I remember rooting for the Red Sox to win the World Series, but I think it was the pennant. I don't know if they won the World Series, but I remember when, I want to say it was Carlton Fisk. You can correct me, but he hit a home run and he stood looking at it. I remember that, and of course they play it, but I remember watching it while I was watching that game or listening on the radio and getting just, holding my breath to see if it was going to go. I think it was Carlton Fisk. But I'm not sure I like all the new changes in the rules. It changes the game a little bit too much, I think. Yes, Spiny. The llama is a quadruped. The llama está un quadruped. Wow, I didn't know that, DNA. Well, not to. We've got 5 minutes, so I got to make sure I have the number, but not to talk politics. But Ukraine is now bombing Moscow. The Kremlin, and I started thinking, are we really that safe from? Because I live here. Is it really that safe here from a drone bomb or a drone attack on the White House? And I'm not very far from the White House. But we're so used to wars happening over there that I think we forget they can come here. All right, let me just make sure I have the conference number written down. It always feels like. All right, I guess I have to turn off the Wi-Fi. Why do you get Wi-Fi when it doesn't even work? Waste of money. All right, here it is. 425 436 6326 376 6434. Okay, mine never works, I know. Cuidado las llamas. The llama is a quadruped. All right, so I have to call in.
All right, let me merge it in. Hold on.
All right.
All right, everybody, it's Sunday night, 7:30. Welcome to the continued fraud hotline. William online. Again, this is not the bias. Make your own decisions. We're just reporting the fraud as we see it and have been for 2.5 years. Again, we're just going to go through some of the things we find that are important and actually run it past you guys so you can get a good feeling about what we think and what we see based on experience. All right. Again, William, welcome and thanks for joining me tonight, taking the time. And so people understand, we take our time to do this. We're not looking for any medals. We're looking to end the fraud so that we can get on with our lives.
I thought I was going to get a medal.
No, we're going to dress you like Julia Childs to get more viewers. Anyway, let me start off. I wrote a bunch of notes, which I usually don't. But I'll start off with, hey, for everyone on the call, 1, 200, 100, whatever's here, we're looking for leaders. Step up and be a leader, okay? We don't want to be the leaders. But if someone doesn't stand up and say something, nothing will ever happen. Look at AMC and GameStop and the apes. They have another documentary coming out. It's on Amazon. I believe it just came out today. I'm going to go watch it after this. And, I'm going to go watch something that I have complete knowledge on, but I'm going to watch it again because I kind of give these people, I can't believe they're still fighting, even after the CEOs don't even help them. I mean, those are the people you want to fight, go to battle with. You know, they had their opportunities. They believed that they were going to win, and they're still fighting. So, again, anyone looking to, join the fight, follow these people. They're great leaders. They're all trying. They're all regular people like the rest of us.
Amarillo.
And, they're doing their part. So there is a show on Amazon. If you give it a shout, watch it. Trimbat said a great line. They have a license to take your money and give you nothing. That was a great line from Susan. But again, that's on Amazon tonight. If you get a chance, go see it. If you're investing in the market and you don't have the energy to go see it, then you're a fool because you're going to lose your money. At least understand what we're telling you about. And I'll just give you my opinion of it. Bill, you stop me whenever you want. But I'm a professional trader. I can show you how to do it. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. This is a tough game, and it's about making a living. If you want to invest in the company, you are insane. If you invest in the U.S. equity market, it's all fraud. You can trade the markets. It's just numbers going back and forth. It's like a casino, all right? But you got to learn how to do it. It's not easy to do. Again, investing in a public company, worrying about the CEO, worrying about the toxic lenders, whether the insiders are selling the stock, buying the stock, or someone's going to put a fake report out like Hindenburg and these guys attacking you and Carson Black or Andrew Left. This is the Wild West, and there's no regulatory body watching over it. You're insane to put your money to work. You're better off digging a hole and throwing it in there and just getting away from it. Unless something changes here. And the reason we're fighting is for my kids, my grandkids, whatever, okay, just so they don't get wiped out also. All right? And it happens. Everyone on this phone call tonight who has an interest in this stupid stuff, this crime, if you don't fight back, I know we're just a small band. We're not a big army. But again, it starts somewhere. And I've been doing this for 2.5 years with a core group of people here. And they know we've been from nowhere to where we are today. And, I think that we're getting someplace. And it's just a matter of time before we win. Bill, you want to say anything? You want to add to that?
Well, I agree with you. Everything you just said. I was lulled into quietude because when you start talking, people listen. But on your point about leadership, it seems to me these guys apparently, Mark did a good job on his call last week, but these guys want to break us up and say that somehow, that's how I interpreted it. Somehow we're colluding with each other, and somehow we're being monitored for what we say. And what I just want to say is we are the leadership. As a group, they never expected to run into him. They never expected to run into us. And as long as we stay strong together, I think they will have to fold. They are on margin. We are not. And anyway, that's one thing I was thinking while I was listening to you.
Well, again, the AMC crowd just adds to it. The crowd in the MMTLP has their own fight with. I'm just going to get to that in a second. But again, I can't make determinations, so I'll venture a guess on what I believe is going to happen there, because otherwise I'll get scolded by some of that community, which I don't want to get involved with. But that's they're smart enough. Let them figure it out. Anyway, I'm just going to go on and talk about FINRA right now for a second. Just so you know, FINRA just gave us the best news in the world. The best news for us, not the best news for MMTLP, because they won't show their blue sheet investigation, which they already conducted. They're saying it's going to cost them too much time and effort to do a detailed report. So again, that tells the world what we've been saying for 2.5 years, myself for 23 years, is that the system is broken. They can't show the world what they know. Obviously, the number's way bigger than it's got to be. So obviously, there's a big problem. FINRA just gave me the best news ever, because I feel that now I know, with the proof from the regulators not showing their cards, that it's just a matter of time before we win. Okay? I don't know how the other thing pans out with FINRA blocking them. It's not trading, lawsuits, their court dates. That's over my head. I don't get paid for that. Yes, I don't really. That's their business. They can go figure it out and talk to each other about that all day long. But to me, FINRA just gave me the best news in the world for naked short selling, fighting stocks. FINRA just told you, you're all being robbed. There's no question about it. And we can't tell you what we just found out. All right, so to me, that is enormous news that FINRA won't show their cards. Obviously, they showed the cards and the numbers were matched up. We would all take the air would come out of our balloon, but they did the opposite, which I was hoping for. They can't show it, and now what are they going to do? All right, like you said, Bill. Once it's seen, it can't be unseen. So now we all know, right?
Yep.
So that's important. I just want to go over. There's an article on Zero Hedge with Elizabeth Warren taking information from Mark Cohodes, who circulated a report on Silicon Valley Bank. And you can go read it on Twitter, on Zero Hedge yourself. And he spoke to everyone and said that Silicon Valley Bank was a mess because of their AML, which is the anti-money laundering, and the KYC, know your customer. Silicon Valley was lacking in both of those departments, and they're supposed to be regulated by the bank. Well, no shit. I put up on Twitter, the Morgan Stanley broker, from Share and Tell, who worked at Morgan Stanley, said he shorted every day. Well, number one, KYC, know your customer. Morgan Stanley didn't know the customer. Right? They're supposed to monitor that, right, William?
Yeah, they're supposed to.
And then the AML, the anti-money laundering, well, all those naked shorts were money laundering events. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they all do the same thing. All the small brokers, no one's paying attention. So the two things that Mark Cohodes was exposing in Silicon Valley is the same thing in every brokerage firm on the street. So if you want to go read the story, I just gave you the breakdown how he's using it against Silicon Valley. I'm using it against every broker on the street. Anyone who allows stock to be naked shorted, they don't know their customer. Okay, that's rule number one. That's the biggest rule. William, when you worked at the Merrill Lynch, did you have to know your customers?
Well, in fact, back then, and I don't know what it was like on the institutional side, but we were supposed to know our customer, and if we did, we could take orders over the phone. You could call in and say, I'd like to buy 10,000 shares of Apple. You had 5 days to settle. If I knew my customer, I could place that order, and then they had 5 days to wire it in. It's not like that anymore. But yes, that was our number one rule, was to know our customer.
Right, and here it is. Coyotes was trying to poke a hole in Silicon Valley Bank, using it as know your customer and the AML, anti-money laundering, and obviously that fits the profile for every brokerage firm on Wall Street who takes these illegal orders, because absolutely no one knows their customers and what they're doing. And that leads me to the broker out west in GTII who was taking fraudulent orders. And I'm told straight from the horse's mouth, right, there will be indictments on that short selling that at that brokerage firm. The guy walked away from his trades. He sold a couple of million shares short at a brokerage firm out west. The broker took the orders. I guess he didn't know his customer. And he walked away from the trade as the stock went up.
And one thing to point out on that, when someone, in that case, decades the trade, it becomes an error. And Westpac, or whatever the name of that organization is, they bought it in already. They covered that error.
They covered it. They took it up to $3. I can actually probably find the date they did it. But the stock was acting so strange and so orderly on the way up that day. All the bids were moving up to 2 5/8, 2 3/4, 2 7/8. It got to 3. And it's so funny that the buy-in was so orderly because someone was selling it on the other side. They were reshorting their own buying. So the guy who was getting bought in was probably told they're going to buy him in. He had no money to pay for the trade. And as they were buying it in, he was shorting it at another firm.
Right.
Okay, so
he communicated illegally with one of his compatriots, and they just shorted it to him and made the money on the way back down.
And that's exactly what they did. So that the position, they moved, the firm took the hit, but the firm didn't go away. They just didn't put their tail between their legs. They called the FBI. And my sources told me twice this weekend, they told me that there will be indictments coming from that. So it will lead to somewhere.
Do you think it'll lead to Kurt Kramer, or?
I don't know who the short is. Whoever did it out there, it could be a friend of theirs. The way it was referred to me is that whoever was shorting at that firm, they believe he was shorting all over the street.
Could it'll lead to singing, ratting.
Oh, someone's gonna be singing opera.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna give up somebody. That's for sure.
It's gonna be opera.
Yeah, someone's gonna be. Listen, look at what's her name, Holmes' sister. She's in jail for 11 years. These guys are so greedy, like Lynn Partners or Yorkville and the Kramers. You stole millions and millions of dollars. They're such pigs that they continue. When they do get caught and they go to jail for 10, 12 years, the rest of their lives, they're not spring chickens anymore. Then they're going to sit there and say, why did I keep fighting? To get what? A bigger potato, a bigger steak, a bigger car, a bigger plane? It doesn't mean anything, all right? They're doing it because they believe it's their God-given right that they can steal your money, all right? They think that they're Harvard graduates and that they can just come out here and just steal your money. That's what they're doing, all right? And they think it's their right to do it. And again, at the end of the day, Elizabeth Holmes, I think that's her name, she thought she had the right of doing this, and what happened to her? She went to jail for 11 years. 11 years. Okay, so again, when they start getting caught for this crime, and they will, because the damage is going to be huge, watch them all start screaming and crying and ratting each other out. And that leads me to Alpine. I'm looking at my list here. Alpine obviously is in a big piston match with the DTCC, the SEC, FINRA fighting and that they're right to this. Like I told you, William, even guys on death row have a right to another trial, right?
That's true.
That's the United States. I don't know how they allow these guys to continue.
The only people that don't have rights are retail investors in the over-the-counter market. Everybody else has rights.
Listen, you keep saying the over-the-counter market, But I watch him destroy New York Stock Exchange stock.
Well, I keep saying it because I know, but it's the ones we're in is over the counter. But yeah, you're right. They do it everywhere. They do it everywhere.
It's everywhere because it's in all types of countries. Just go look at the news, whether it's in Korea or I forget the country the other day. I had it, Austria. It's everywhere. Wherever the depository trust is, that's where the loophole exists. And if you just look, I put up an old video and it talks about the depository trust in the stock lending program. Again, the DTC is the most powerful organization in the world. And if you think about what they gave us about Alpine being short the stock, it is unheard of. All right, just like that other company got the information about the SEC and FINRA discussing the blue sheet investigation and the fraud, GTI's got information from the depository trust about a huge short position at a prime broker.
When you say loophole, you're not saying legal loophole. You're saying illegal loophole.
Oh,
right?
it's an illegal loophole that the rabbit hole is so deep that, if you just look at it, I posted this morning, Wedbush has been fined numerous times. They're supposed to be a watchdog when they let these offshore players, LLCs, use their platform. It's called direct market access. You open an account with Wedbush, and they allow you to use their market maker exemption and give you direct access to the equity markets using their platform and using their license to do what you want. Wedbush is supposed to oversee it. Instead, they looked the other way and they made millions of dollars allowing people to come in and do whatever they want, like naked short selling. Okay? Day trading firms, all these day trading firms, you put up $25,000, like that guy Timothy Sykes works at. They go in, they cannot borrow shares. They have access to no one's lending these day trading firms stock. They always say, oh, come here, we can borrow shares. They have access to Fidelity's not lending, whatever the name of the trading firm is, stock, to let them use their inventory so they can short names. What they do is they naked short using the market maker exemption at these day trading firms, and that's what these guys attack. There's 10 guys in an office, and when Timothy Sykes attacked GTII, 10, 20 guys, they go in after it, selling 20, 50,000 shares at the market. They do it so fast that it knocks the wind out of the stock and drives it down and creates a panic. That's at the day trading firm. So I told you, Wedbush has the direct market access. The day trading firms use it at a different level. Put up 50 grand and let you do what you want. Imagine putting up $1 million at a day trading firm, and you go out there and you can naked short all you want. That's the loopholes that we see. Okay, these are different places where they do it. Anyway, Bill, any questions on any of this stuff?
Yeah, I'm getting some questions, but what you just said before we lose that train of thought brings up what you and I were speaking about this morning. I'm adding to it right now. If Gary Gensler were deeply concerned about fair markets for everyone, level playing field, he would if he's going to let these criminals short or sell stock that doesn't exist with unlimited credit, why doesn't he let retail do it?
Well, listen, I posted the other day. I said it 1,000 times. I said it to people in D.C. myself. Hey, I want to steal some money. I told a gentleman from West Virginia, he's running for the Senate seat, Chris Rose, I believe his name is. He wrote that, why am I the only one person speaking about naked shorting? I told him point blank, let's teach the people of West Virginia how to steal, and everybody be wealthy. We don't have to worry about coal or anyone not having heat or anything like that. Just steal like everybody else.
Well, I sent you an article from the Daily Mail this morning talking about how shoplifters are organizing, and they attack stores simultaneously, a store simultaneously. Well, that's all these criminals are doing. And
it's the same. They work as a pack of wolves.
They work as a pack of.
You can't do anything about it.
And it's they have all the advantages, and then on top of it, they get lawyers to send cease and desist letters. One of which I got. Somebody asked me to ask you again. What's the name of the show on Amazon?
Apes Unite. Apes. Hold on a second. It's on Amazon. It's, hold on 1 second. I put it up a couple of times. I put it up about 10 times. Apes Together. APES Together.
Apes
Strong.
Together. Apes Together.
It's on Amazon. There's a YouTube. I put it up. It said it was coming out June 5th, and it's an excellent little recap. I don't know where they go. I think that the GTI crowd is super advanced. Okay, where the apes are, they're catching up. They understand it now. They understand all the dark pools. They understand all that stuff. But at the time when I reported on GameStop, no one understood this stuff. You know, we were reporting on this a long time ago. The difference between a GTII and the AMCs and the GameStops or whatever you have is that everyone in GTI is educated. And the reason that it's got to such a big mess is complete security fraud by the short sellers and the regulators looking the other way, allowing this to continue. And since we've been fighting it, we know who the shorts were, the Kramers. We know their prime broker, thanks to the CEO of DBMM. She told us. Obviously, they're tied to this thing also with Alpine. And I do think that once Alpine gets the rug pulled out from underneath them, there's going to be a lot of pressure on these stocks because, you know, one shareholder asked me today to report on this. What happens when Alpine does get the hook? All right. While you answer
that, one person asked just now that he noticed that Alpine was expelled a year ago, 2022. Why is it still pending? What's different now? I think you know the answer. I know the answer, but maybe you can incorporate that.
Why is it still pending? I have no idea. They should have thrown these guys out of a helicopter in the ocean a year ago. What are you, crazy?
Well, it's the lawyers. The lawyers have gotten a stay, and so that's what's coming.
I mean, it's remarkable that Mrs. John Hurry is at events in Scottsdale with diamonds on, like the Hope Diamond, walking around like she's a aristocrat. She's just a crook. She married someone that they're decent scoundrels, and they diluted the equity markets, and they parade around like who the hell they are. It's just remarkable.
And then apparently FINRA and SEC are monitoring all of our social media to find out when we step out of line, but they don't do anything about stealing by these. I agree. I happen to agree with you. Justine Hurry and John Hurry, both,
right,
in my opinion, are crooks.
They've been doing it for 20 years. I told you I was never a penny stock guy. Everyone that I speak to that is a penny stock, either that played in it, did IR for it, whatever, they all said these guys are the biggest crooks for 20 years. Not 2 weeks, 20 years. Okay? And the DTCC let them into their special club to be a prime broker. I mean, to be a prime broker in the United States is like, you know, that's a major piece of Wall Street. That's like the elite of the elite. And they let these guys in here. And now look, to get them out, it's like pulling out a tick. They can't get rid of them. And they have to do it the proper way. Otherwise, they're going to scream foul, which they're yelling now. Oh, we've been violated our rights and all this stuff. You know, these guys, you know, just wait till they get them. When they peel back the onion, is what they always say. Wait to see what happens when they start peeling back and see what really went on at Alpine. Let me just go through this Alpine thing because someone asked me.
Yes,
So Alpine's going to get shut down. There are LLCs that have accounts at, you know, limited liabilities that have these accounts at Alpine as a prime broker. We have them at E-Trade, say. E-Trade goes out of business. They call you up and they say, hey, move your account. You can sell or you can buy back your short. get your money and get out of here. Go find a new brokerage account. Brokerage firms go out all the time, and everybody moves their money. And it's like a run on a bank. When Bear Stearns was going out, everybody was pulling their money out of Bear Stearns and Lehman, and that's what happens. They want their accounts taken away. No one wants to be part of it. The problem is, Alpine, who is going to accept GTII big short position? I spoke to a friend who's a prime broker at a major firm. He said they have no problem taking a GTI big short position. But he said you better put up $3 billion in capital to protect it. They need margin money because they know if they take that liability and you walk away from it, William, if it's 300 million shares, they are stuck paying the bill. No one wants the liability unless they have the money behind it. So moving this position around, it needs money to protect it. And that's problem number one. Problem number two is if you're closing up Alpine and they're moving positions around, GTII is in their court documents. You don't think the regulators are watching this stock to see who's going to step up? And for anyone who's a movie buff, if you go look at the movie Get Shorty, they put the money in a locker for the drug dealer at the airport, and they say, just go get here's the key, go get your money. And everybody's sitting there looking at it because they know the federal agents are watching it also. That's the same thing that's happening here. That account at Alpine's like the locker. Who's going to show up and claim it's theirs? As soon as they show up, they're all going to get arrested. Right? That's the same thing. You can't move this position. Goldman Sachs would take the position, but you better have $3 billion in cash.
Who would take this position as an investment? Not Goldman Sachs. I'm talking about someone stepping in on behalf of Kurt Kramer or Justine Hurry or whoever's managing it for Alpine. The Kramers and the Hurries, if they've taken all their money offshore, they'd never bring it back in to protect this trade.
They don't want who would want to throw? All Alpine had to do was go back and pay all the fees, promise to never do anything wrong again, be good boys, and they would have got by, right? Like everybody else.
Right.
Instead, they totally backing away. We don't want to pay any money. We're out of business. We're going away. They want nothing because all the stolen money, if you start wiring funds back into it, the government can see where you're getting the money from. Instead, I'm sure they're scrambling behind the scenes. If I was Alpine and I had all these offshore accounts, I'd be closing out accounts with money and moving it away to someplace else, to another place. So they'd be like, it's impossible to keep tracking down this money. Okay? I don't want to think like a crook, but I'm sitting there thinking, saying, well, if I'm Alpine, what am I fighting for? They're spending all kinds of money on legal to do what? No one's going to do business with them anymore. Everybody ran away. The regulators are watching them. So why would you say?
So is the trading going on in the stock now to try to move the positions, or is it just trying to print money like an ATM machine, print money every day?
I think you've got some small accounts there that are closing it up, and you can see them washing. The stock trading is 90% washing and of the same position back and forth. There's really nothing going on. I mean, it's just I told you the other day, go for a walk and stop watching it, and you came back and it was the same price as that when we spoke about it.
You told me to take a long walk on a short pier.
Right, and you came back.
And I came back.
But again, the activity is there's no selling in the stock. That is my opinion. That's what I see. I look at the proof. I look at the data. There's no selling. I actually take snapshots of the washed trades. I take snapshots of the naked shorting. You can see it when buyers step in, they hit it. And it's just basically nonsense, back and forth all day.
I have a question on the washing. Jasper asks, he says washing suppresses the price, but does washing also clear out shorts that should be covered too? Thank you.
The washing that they're doing is they're trying. They're not really suppressing the price. They're trying to create this illusion that it's going down. It's just an illusion, right? So again, you can see them. They come at it. Most of the washing happens in the first 30 seconds of the day. As you can see, they always attack in the morning.
Right.
Right. They always try to push it down low. Hopefully that some of the people have a stop loss order in there and they steal your money. That's what they try to do in the morning. They're just trying to create this panic, and then they cross a lot of stock. Like, in some days we trade 400,000 shares, and 125,000 shares trades in 1.5 minutes, and then it's quiet for 5 hours. So you can see that they do it at certain points. All right. Now, the second question about the washing is to move out shorts. If I was short, like we discussed before, when that other guy was being bought in up to $3, someone reshorted it, right?
Right.
So someone's short. Now they wash it at $1 so that they can make $2. So account A, let's say, shorted it at $3. Account B will sell it short at $1 to account A. Account A is now flat. He made $2. And he can take his money out. He's free and clear. And they stole $2 from the system. Now a new LLC is short at account B is short at $1. So account B is now going to be the bag holder that when this blows up, he will be the one, or whoever that account is, will lose the money. That LLC will lose the money. And that's how they keep moving it around.
So I guess one predicate to this question, if you could describe what you think the, I guess it was the DTCC or the NSCC that wrote in black and white, concentrated short position of GTII. But Red Hook Texan is asking, this has been going on for 2.5 years. Can it go on for another 2.5 years in GTII?
Well, it's been going on in my life for 23 years, so another 2.5 years, anything can happen. But
right.
Again,
right.
This is a different, Red Hook, this is a different time. We've had enough. We're throwing every cannonball, every haymaker at them now to make it end. Okay? I don't know how long you've been here, Red Hook, but I've been in GTII for 2.5 years following it. Not 2 weeks, not 3 months, not 1 year, 2.5. Okay? I reported it 7 days a week. The phone calls we're on, William knows I did 7 days a week. Every day I did this. Okay?
He was like the Maytag repairman. It was maybe 2 or 3 people would listen. I'm exaggerating, but it...
So 2 or 3 people taught 3 people who taught 3 people.
That's right. That's right.
And this is how I wanted it to be educated. I couldn't care less. This is about education. Look where we are now. And you know what? Because of, Anna and yourself, I came down to D.C. I didn't know we were allowed to go banging around the Senate and see all the representatives and see the senators. She decided to go and leave her family, and I said, you know what? She's going to do it. I'm showing up too, and I went down.
See, that is real leadership. What she did took courage, but it also led by example, and that's why I showed up. I didn't know. I live here. I didn't know I could go in there, but she showed me how.
She showed up out of the blue, and I said, you know what? If she can show up, so can I. So I left my family, and I did it. You left yours, and there's a group of other people that all showed up. And you know what? That's what people need to do. Okay? It takes a few people to lead the charge and let others. It takes a minute of your time. Go on Twitter, contact the senator, contact the reporter, tell them your story. I don't give a shit what stock you talk about. All right? I don't care. This is about all. When I was in D.C., and Will, you probably heard, have I ever talked about a stock? Do you ever see me talk about stocks? I don't talk about individual stocks.
Not unless, a couple of times people asked about something, but no, you never did. You never, I think that came at one point that was going around that you were blocking out MMTLP for something, for our stuff, but you never did that. You were just pushing.
MMTLP, if people ask me about it, I always tell them, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what that is. Those people, I don't know what that is. I think they made it up. I don't know what that is. I'm only kidding for you maniacs out there. I do anything to help everyone, and that's the end of the conversation.
Well, I know you did.
I don't want to discuss it anymore. It's not worth my breath. Let's move on to something else. I talked about the Charlie Rose guy from West Virginia. If you can follow him, give him some support. The guy wants to fight the battle. You know, he seems to, he wants to, you know, he's going against Joe Manchin. Let's give him some support and teach him about what's going on. Me and William walked into Elise Stefanik. I hope I say it correctly. She's a very powerful woman in the Republican Party. She's brilliant. She's from New York. And we walked in. And William, what did we say? She was looking for a fight. We walked in.
Well, she was looking for a cause. She was looking for a cause.
We knocked on our door and says, "Here we are. This is your cause." We educated them to death. Okay, and I attached it to the city of Rochester, and to save the city of Rochester was Kodak. I don't know Kodak, but I know it's been naked shorted. We spoke to the representatives from Kodak, from Rochester, and their city is in a downward spiral between crime, loss of jobs. The whole city is unwinding.
Wow.
Where before it was the city of Eastman Kodak. So why can't it turn around again? So that was an angle that we took speaking to those people. So there's many different stories. When me, William, and our new friend Lou walked into the gentleman in Oregon, right?
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
That's good. I think it's good not to put the names out, but go ahead.
What did he say? What did they say to us? What name?
Oh yeah, he said you're not talking about MMAT and MMTLP, are you?
I told William, go outside the door and call Honor up immediately. I said, that's what I told him to do. I said, stop what you're doing.
Well, I tell you, Ham, one thing that's leadership each of us could do and make it our goal, just pick up the phone and call our congressman, call our senator. It makes a difference. We watched it, at least I saw it in the offices we went in. They have someone sitting there at the phone in front of a screen taking your phone call. That's one thing you can do.
Look, as I said, it takes everyone 1 second. Teach somebody. Be careful. Do not invest in the U.S. equity markets. There's a 90% chance you're going to get ripped off. Go buy Apple computer. That's all they want you to do is go buy Apple computer and don't look at anything else. Everything else is destroyed. It doesn't make a difference. I spoke about the story about CELU. Okay, I met with the people and they took money from, I believe, Yorkville. Yorkville has access to 19 million shares. And how come they haven't filed that they own the stock? Are they embarrassed? They invested in a company that's helping cure diseases? Or did they sell it already and use the stock that they purchased to cover their short position?
And why hasn't, like you always ask, why don't they show who their investors are? They should report with those kind of positions. They're over 4.5%.
Oh, they absolutely, it's massive. And they're hiding their name. Once they hide their name that they invested in a public company, you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay? These guys all do the same thing. This morning I put up an old Judd, Judd Bagley report about Sedona. Everyone, just change the symbol, whether it's GTII, FNGR, WLF, CELU, you name it. Anyone who's ever taken money from these criminals, just change the name. Sedona equals GTII. AMRO equals Geneva Roth. That was the LLC that the Kramers used to lend the money to GTII, correct?
Right.
Rhino is the group that naked shorted for AMRO. GTII and Geneva Roth, we don't know the name of the LLC the Kramers used to naked short.
Or the many LLCs.
They always sign a piece of paper saying, Geneva Roth would never naked short your stock. We signed a loan agreement with you, and they do it in an account that their mother controls or their cousin or their friend. Somebody's controlling it, and they keep it arm's length away from the lending. Whoever lent the money, they're the angel. Oh, we're just sitting here. Like, for example, Finger Motion. Lynn Partners signs a deal with Finger Motion. They don't make a short. Oh, we never make a short. But they have an account somewhere that is doing the damage. Okay? That's how they all do it the same way. All right? They look at you, they smile. Oh, we'll never do it. And every CEO keeps falling for it. The problem is that if any of these guys, the money leads back to those guys, they should be in jail forever for fraud, misrepresentation. They're just destroying companies from doing it. And that's a different way. I don't want to drag everyone down the rabbit hole, but this is what they're doing. It could not work. The whole criminal organization would not work if they settled the trades. This is about stock settlement.
They just have to arrest one. They just have to arrest one person, and the industry will regulate itself.
That's once they start going to jail, they all go down. Okay, but again, this is about stock settlement and the failure to deliver shares. Susan Trimbat said in the Amazon show that I'm going to go watch in a little while, said they were given the license to take your money and give you nothing in return. That's what they've done.
I read her book twice, and that's what she says. They can settle a fail to deliver with a fail to deliver, is what she said.
That is the stock loan system at the depository. The DTC always claims they settle all transactions to keep the system going. Now, how did they get to that point? They created the stock borrow program within the DTC. So let's say I own 1 million shares, all the shares in a public company, and William, you buy 1 million shares the next day.
Right.
I didn't sell them to you. That means they sold them naked short to you. The DTC will then take my 1 million shares from my account, lend it to your account, so now your account looks like it was settled.
Right.
Now let's say my girlfriend goes out and buys 1 million shares. They borrow your 1 million shares and lend it to her to settle her trades. So we could be 3 million shares long, and we're using the same 1 million shares to settle all the transactions. That is the stock borrow program at the DTC. That's it. So they keep borrowing shares from one person and keep lending it around. And the DTC will claim we settle all transactions, and that's how they do it, just like I described to you just now.
Well, there's a lot of questions, but I'm going to forget them if I don't go in order. Someone asked, why there's thousands of stocks out there to short and to hit. Why are they just focused on these?
Why are they just focused on these?
Yeah.
Okay, so naked short sellers only play in their sandbox. For example, I post every day, Lynn Partners has a $10 million debenture in BRAG. I tell people the stock is $3.30. That stock has got pennies written all over it. Okay? If I was allowed to make a short, I would drive it down myself, because the only way Lynn's going to get that money back is to naked short the stock. The company's not giving them back $10 million. Okay, so they have to get their money back out somehow. No one goes out, and I call them out every day. Naked short sellers worldwide. Here it is, $3.50. Go knock yourself out. No one ever does it, because they don't control the debt. They don't go play in that sandbox. GTII, we had the debt guy is the Kramers. They are the players, and their friends are the players in this sandbox. Someone who's a short seller in Apple is not drifting over to GTII. Lynn Partners is not coming in this sandbox, because they know they don't control anything, and they would never play here and risk losing everything on one trade that they can't control. When they control the paper or the debt, then they come and play. Don't control the debt, they don't come near it. And I call it out. I think you've probably seen it, Bill. I probably posted it 10 times. BRAG, come and get it. All you can eat. They can short the shit out of it. That's what I say. They own $10 million. Everything that Lynn Partners touches, one of them was SYTA. They had a $10 million note with them. Stock
Right.
went from $10, it's 12 cents.
Right.
That's Lynn Partners. Finger Motion went from 9 to 60 cents until we got them trapped here, also in this name. Okay? They have no more debt with the company. They're exposed. You can see their damage. The stock got listed on the NASDAQ, Finger Motion. Revenue is exploding and the stock can't go anywhere. How's that possible? Okay?
Well,
You can see the signs when they're trapped and exposed. When they control the game, like BRAG, no, there's no movement. They're hoping some big buyers come in here or the company can produce something and get people to buy it so they can sell the stock and get back some of their $10 million.
I have one very insistent question, which I don't quite follow, but he says, come on, people, wake up. There's something not right about how the DTCC gave us Alpine. Come on, William. Why would they screw us for years and then give us Alpine on a silver platter? Smells bad.
Well, that's a great question. And most people thought that I typed it in. I said I typed it in. I didn't even know about that document. I agree with you 1,000%. But this is what I believe. DTC could give a rat's ass if Alpine stole from the chairman of the DTC's mother. I could care less. Once you steal from the DTC stepped in, and that's when they had to expose these characters. All right, Alpine's been selling their clients out, taking their money, doing everything. But the DTC never put their foot in that stuff. Never put their toe in the water on doing that. Once the DTC was put at risk, the DTC stepped in and is now working with us against them. They jeopardized the depository trust. The depository trust has to protect its members. And guess what? We were the lucky ones to come out. Never in a million years.
I think my answer I agree with you, but it would also be the greed of these people knows no bounds, and they just push it to the maximum, and they're robbing from their own prime broker. And finally, it got too big.
Well, it's so, listen, my friend who's a prime broker, he said to me point blank, a concentrated short position, it means massive. If you go look at short positions on the street, there's 50 million shares short of many shares. IBM, Apple, there's millions, hundreds of millions of shares short.
Right.
Okay? So for them to say a concentrated, it is big. All right, that's what why didn't they give us the number? Again, if I was so
What do you mean by big? 1 million, 10 million, 50 million?
Oh, it's got to be north of 100 million shares, easy.
So, one person or several people actually keep asking about DBMM, and I think it would be helpful maybe if you pointed. I think her name is Linda Perry. She gave us Alpine.
Listen, the woman is wonderful. She's out of her mind wonderful. She's smart. She vowed to me that she was not going to leave until she cleaned up everything the Kramers did to her. She fixed everything. It took her years to do it. She refused to go bankrupt. This woman gave up years. I don't know how many years, but a long time. I spoke with her. She vowed. She says, I'm not going away. And she stood tall through the whole thing. And, she told us that their prime broker was Alpine. I reported it, I don't know, a year ago. I had no idea. She told me. And I told everyone. Okay? She's a pit bull. She's brilliant. She's smart. And she's going to finish what she has in mind, whatever it is. I don't know anything about the stock. I don't know anything about what they do. I spoke with her. She is the real deal. I'm sure if she had help from any regulatory body, the stock would be a beast because she's a smart woman. She knows her shit, that's for sure.
And she gave us Alpine, so she's in the fight.
She knew all about it. She's been fighting these guys, and she vowed she's not going away. And here she is. She got it back up. She went through the whole process. Avid sent a bunch of videos with them. And they're good people. That's all I know. I don't follow stock.
So
I can't follow all these names. There's thousands of them. Okay?
Father Guido Sarducci has a question. Please ask him about the tweet video of Rick Santelli interviewing a trader and his thoughts on the lack of liquidity in the markets. I didn't see the video. Maybe you didn't either. So
I did see it, and I don't know what they meant about that. And these guys have, it depends on. I couldn't answer it. I couldn't tell you. I wish I could. The liquidity in the marketplace is that maybe on the short side, people aren't filling the orders anymore.
Right.
For example, like Caterpillar on Friday. And if you guys want to learn about market manipulation, on Friday, if you just look at the Dow stocks they took up, Caterpillar was up $23. It's like, whatever good news came out, they were going to sell a zillion tractors in an hour. That's how fast they took it up. They take up the same names, UNH, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Caterpillar was up, 23 points yesterday. Add them together and you got 500 points in the Dow, right? 10 stocks. And you laugh at it, I know someone that was playing around with the video for the close, trying to get some cheap options for a run on the close. The stock was down $5 all day and never moved an inch. I'm
gonna ask you a question that I personally am clueless, but it keeps coming up here. On June 2nd in New York clerk's office, GTII Inc. versus Canaccord Genuity was named in MMTLP's court documents. Why? I don't know, and I'm not sure you're going to know.
No, listen, as far as the court stuff goes on, I'm not an attorney. I don't even keep up on the court dates anymore. I'm getting dizzy from the Alpine and all these other court dates, FINRA, this one. Every day's a different day. They move it back and forth. I'm just sitting here waiting like everybody else. Listen, all these court dates, the bad guys are caught everywhere. They're all buying time for a reason. All right? They're all busted. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. If you don't believe it's going to happen, then you got to move along, get out of this market, and, never come back. All right? I'm confident that things are going to happen, but that's my belief. I've been doing this 23 years, and I've never seen it where we've had proof, we've had regulators in communication with each other. We could see how their thought process is on the blue sheets. We could see that the blue sheets, they don't want it to get out. No shit. We know the blue sheets. So you got to remember, the blue sheets are easy. They're not looking at the buying in the stock. They're not looking at those people that are selling 5 or 10,000 shares or 1,000 shares or 500 shares. They're looking for the people that have been selling millions of shares every day into the marketplace. I'm sure there's maybe 5 characters that were doing it in that stock. All right, and it's pretty easy to follow the paper trail. And once they figured out how big the fail to deliver was in the stock, that's when it fainted. And that's why you have 170 days of everyone being locked up, because they don't know what to do. That's just my opinion on it. They have no clue what to do. How are they going to fix this? You have a lawsuit on one side and get all the shareholders on the other side. I don't know how they figure it out. There's 2 different things. And like you said, once it's seen, it can't be unseen. And everyone is seeing what's going on now. Okay? Again, I believe what comes out of that blue sheets is going to be earth-shattering for the naked shorting stocks like a GameStop, AMC, GTII. All the names on the forefront of this fight will have, superpowers, because now the DTC, the SEC, FINRA, they're all exposed. And I think it'll be soon. It'll be open season on the short sellers.
Well, and I think we have to give credit to Mark for filing that administrative request.
Oh, no, listen. Mark he's fighting a battle he can't win, and he can't win it in the streets. I appreciate his posts. I read them all the time, and I think he's doing a great job. People, you wrote a thing about Monday morning quarterbacks. I agree. Mark, do your job. Just keep filing. Write what you see as an attorney. And you know what? There's too many of us here that have too many questions. I don't even ask him anymore. Because, I'm getting hit with 1,000 questions. Imagine him with the court proceedings. What's going on?
I think it'll be like that Malcolm Gladwell, I think it was, book, Tipping Point. At some point there'll be a tipping point in Congress or in journalism or at the California Teachers Retirement Plan, and people go, oh my God, the emperor has no clothes. They're stealing our money. You were just talking a little bit about MMTLP, and just two questions on GTII that are all scrolling up here. One is from one guy. He's nervous that in Canada, and it applies to more than one brokerage firm, they can limit how high you could sell the stock in GTII. Secondly, can they stop trading in GTII like they did in MMTLP?
No, I don't believe they would. No, MMTLP was a fraud from the beginning. So, I mean, you had a fraudulent situation that got out of control, and finally, they made a mistake of shutting it down instead of settling it up. So now they got their foot up their ass because now they're caught. They can't get out of it. They should have never shut it down. But, John Bird alerted them that this was a complete fraudulent, simple, there's no company behind it. He never authorized it to trade. So, again, it was a fraudulent situation that got out of control. I mean, it's just like a comedy, the whole thing, what they've done. But whoever signed it up to get the QSIP and start trading and make a market in it, as your culprits,
Here's a question. I'm laughing because of his name, Immortal Quazo. But he's wondering, when will the IOUs that are put into everybody's account for the distribution of the GTII restricted dividend become real shares?
There's a 6 month restriction, I believe, so we're in about a month now. Just remember, if the short is 300 million, 10% is 30 million shares. Your broker is responsible to get that 30 million shares. E-Trade, Ameritrade, they cannot just put these IOUs in your account. What they're doing is basically doing an unrestricted offering, giving out shares unregistered. Is a crime. If the CEO were to give out unregistered securities, he'd go to jail.
Right.
Basically, the brokerage firms just gave out 30 million of them. That's why the dividend was done. It puts the brokerage firms against the short sellers. Now, the brokerage firms, if they were good boys, they would call up the shorts and say, hey, you owe us these dividend shares. All right, because the short owes the dividend.
Right.
But the street is so broken, the brokerage firms don't even know what the hell they're doing. And now they're short this dividend. All right, so there'll be more traps like that. We know what we're doing. We're not stupid. We know that the brokerage firms are on the hook here.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I know I'm stupid, but anyway. We know that the brokerage firms, you have to keep doing the dividends. I told you 1,000 times. The system is completely broken. We have limited things you can do. The dividend is the killer. When you give out a dividend, everyone needs a seat. It's musical chairs, just like I said 1,000 times. The stock is holding up, okay, in an environment where other companies are getting destroyed. Look at MULN. I tried to help them out. He destroyed himself, that guy. He destroyed himself. He's building cars. People said they loved him. I know nothing about it, but the guy was building a company, and he got destroyed over it. I don't know who decided they were Julius Caesar here, but someone gave him the thumbs down, and they said, destroy that guy. I don't know who it is, but just think about it. Hedge funds are sitting around with their thumb up or down and sitting there putting their thumbs down and say, hey, kill MULN, thumbs up, we like the video, whatever it may be. They love this one, kill that one. Just look what they did to Etsy, ETSY. Andrew Left put out a story that's selling counterfeit T-shirts. Now, if I was short 30 million shares of that stock and it was running away from me, why wouldn't I hire someone to go become a vendor on Etsy and then let them know that they're selling counterfeit shirts? Andrew Left writes their thing, and they got direct access to this guy. And when they show up the vendor, he says, well, I didn't know they were counterfeits, and he's off the hook. Meanwhile, Andrew Left's story is valid because they have someone who did it. And there's your story, and the stock is now $85. So the short seller got $50 back in his pocket. Do you think that's beyond the short seller to do that crazy story?
Of course
Not
not.
me.
It's a lot of money involved here. So why, if a CEO issues shares, raises money, they have to issue a prospectus, they have to know their cap table. Somebody's asking this. Why can't CEOs find out the amount of shares at DTC or in the brokerage firms? Why can't they get an accurate count of how many shares have been counterfeited or failed to deliver?
For all you new fighters that want to be leaders out here, it's pretty easy. How can it be possible that the stock settlement system controls the public companies? They have nothing to do with it. The stock settlement system controls the public companies. So is it the dog that wags the tail or the tail that wags the dog? On Wall Street, it's the tail that's wagging the dog. So a cancer company like CELU has no control of what's going on in this company. The depository trust controls it. The stock settlement system controls everything about the company. It has nothing to do with it. That's the fraudulent part of Wall Street. Okay, these guys make money off the trading. They could care less about what happens with the company and their fundamentals. It means nothing. All right. So again, to answer your question, how does a CEO have no control over any of it? Zero. Every day a CEO signs off on his audit, he should know how many shares. They have to put in their prospectus how many shares they have in the company. If that number's wrong, he'll be sued to death. Meanwhile, no one has any idea how many shares. IBM has no idea. Apple. You know how many naked shorts are in Apple and IBM? They're in every stock. You don't think there's convertible debt, convertible bonds in these stocks? These guys short against them all day long. They don't borrow the shares. They just take it short.
So there's no way to know the denominator. You may have the best story in the world, but what's it worth on a per share basis of, it's not the float, but all the stock that's been sold. You don't know.
No one has any idea.
So
I don't know.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Let me just give you something I thought about many years ago, and I was told by a big accounting firm that we should attack the auditors of the brokerage firms. When you buy and sell a stock, the brokerage firm is your custodian, right? You pay them a fee to buy your shares. They're your custodian. They're supposed to get you dividends, right? Everything they do about your stock, they manage it, correct?
Right.
If they buy a stock and it never settles, how could they record that income from your commission that was paid as income? They never earned it.
You remember
Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, everyone's financials going back 35 years are all false.
I'm having a hard time remembering the name of the company, but Jeffrey Skilling and whatever the energy trading company in Texas that went bust, Enron. They went after the auditors. They took it down from Big Six to the Big Four because of that. That's a great idea you have.
I'm just saying that the brokerage firms, when you buy a stock, Goldman Sachs, your commission. Basically, Goldman Sachs' commission is the money they're getting from Citadel for selling your order, right?
Right.
They never earned the commission. They never settled the trades. That's part of your trade is the settlement of your security. Yeah, but they gave you money, but they never got the stock, so they never finished the transaction.
I think that's a great idea.
They told me to go after the auditors because Goldman, Morgan, all these guys have unsettled trades, unsettled treasuries, whatever it is, whatever's unsettled, they can't report this as income because they never earned it.
Yeah. So somebody's asking, I know this, I hope it doesn't annoy you, what happened to Upstream as it relates to GTII?
Upstream is again, I don't know what the company and what they did. I know the people at Upstream, but I'm not privy to. You guys got to understand. I may know a lot of people, but when it comes to public companies, they don't tell you what's going on. Like I know electrician, I have no idea I haven't spoken to him. I send him photos of spoofing and all that stuff every day, all the data, everything I see. But my conversations, I haven't spoken to him in 2 months. You're not allowed to speak when it's a public company and they're doing stuff. It's inside information. So I really don't know what happened with Upstream and what's going on. I don't know. I can't ask.
All right, I don't understand this question, but you probably do. With regards to the restricted shares that were given to us, Charles Schwab has the restricted shares separated, but TD Ameritrade does not. Is that an issue for us?
I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not.
I don't know. You know, these guys. You know, Pat Byrne always said these guys change their rules as they go along. You know, each brokerage firm, the whole system is insane. Everybody makes up their own rules. I've heard 50 different responses from Fidelity, Ameritrade, E-Trade. Like, every time someone gets on the phone, it's a different story.
So
if they give a dividend out in IBM, it's settled in one day. Everybody has no problems, right?
Right.
If we give out a dividend, it's like the world's upside down. No one knows what to do anymore.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It's like it's the biggest problem in the world. Every shareholder saying, I was told this, I was told that, I was told this. They make up their own things. How do I answer all these questions from Fidelity, Ameritrade? I can't stay on the phone all day doing this stuff. It's insane.
Do you think the
all
SEC...
This is showing you that the biggest financial market in the world has no idea what to do with all the counterfeits in the system. The counterfeit shares... Once you call their bluff by giving out a dividend, you throw a wrench into their works, and this is when all this shit starts to happen. Okay? Now, by accident, we got lucky. The DTC is giving us proof. Now we have attorneys. Go back 2.5 years, people. We started this thing with just a fight with the Kramers and a note. Then Charlie Mayo's phone call. All right? This is how we started this whole thing with it, these guys. All the little things, the mistakes that the toxic debt guys did. Now we're seeing unregistered toxic loan guys. The guy that was caught on Friday, I think he sold 60 billion shares of stock, and he stole $100 million. That's one toxic lender. Think about that. 60 billion shares they sold into the marketplace, and they stole $100 million. And the SEC finally closed them down. Think how much his network. If he stole $100 million, think about all the market makers that we always see. We talk about Vert, these guys. How much money do you think they skimmed off of that guy, $100 million? You don't think they made themselves $5 million, $10 million over the years? Front running his orders? That's the network that we're trying to break down. There's market makers that earn off of it. There's trading firms. These guys, it's like a pack of wolves, just like you said.
So the SEC also announced Friday that they walked away from 42 investigations, and they're taking away the banning of 48 people. Do you think that affects GTII?
I have no idea what they did. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's not very pretty. So maybe you can tell people if you still think GTII is the best setup out there.
Again, I'll tell you what I believe. I've been doing this for 20 years, 23 years. Again, GTI to me, okay, is the best short squeeze setup I've ever seen, and it's for only two reasons. One, everyone is super educated on it. All the information is available. It's right there. But number two is that the reason that it's number one is the fraud. In stocks like GameStop and AMC, there were short sellers, big short sellers in here that got busted. People got blown out. Small hedge funds got crushed. But the big boys took their bath. Okay, the stock squeezed. You can see this stock, they're holding it down every day because there's no money behind it. There is no money behind it. Meaning that we're dealing with a kamikaze pilot. This is an all or none. They can only go one way. If the stock goes up a nickel, they're trying to knock it down. That is the beauty of it, is because they won't let you pay higher. I always told you, if they thought they could win, they let the stock go higher. Okay, it's pretty easy. If I was the short seller, if you're on the phone with me, let the stock go to $5, $8. Let everybody come in, run in to buy it, and then slaughter it down. They can't. They can't even let it go past $1 for a second.
Because they can't afford the margin to let that happen.
There's no money behind this trade. The whole trade is done by a homeless person. There's no money.
Smoke and mirrors.
And it's all smoke and mirrors. They're trying to hold it down. And that is the number one reason why I believe this is the best of them all. Okay? There's great ones out here. Don't get me wrong. I follow plenty of them. But because of the fraud, there's no Stevie Cohen here. There's no Merlin Capital or MLC short sellers, whatever their names are. They're not here. Those are deep pocket short sellers. And they lost billions. But they took their beating and they reshorted it again, right?
Right.
After they went to $500.
Absolutely.
Okay, it went to 500. People became millionaires overnight. But I had friends, we were only at 3 3/4. I put the report up. Everyone, the highest we sold it was 118. And we were the first people in. Because we had no idea how high it would go. Okay? I didn't study it for 2.5 years. GTII I studied for 2.5 years every day. For 2.5 years. Not 2.5 days, 2.5 years. Every trade. And all the information that we were talking about has now come true. If there's one thing that I haven't said, shoot me for it. Because you know what? Alpine and the DTC popped up. Now you see that FINRA and MMTLP, they're hiding the facts of the blue sheet. So we know the system is broken. And now we know that Alpine is the culprit with GTII and the prime broker services. We know who the shorts were, the Kramers. Why? Because they had the debt. How do we know that? Carlos, was it Charlie Mayo called up the company? It's all there. Just put the puzzle together. All someone has to do is say, settle the trades, and this is a bottle rocket. That's it.
So someone's asking, and maybe it'd help other people. What happens when someone sells the stock naked, short, long, marks it long, but they don't deliver? What happens to the money? Does it stay in a segregated account?
Oh yeah, they don't get the money until they close it up.
I know. So maybe explain that. I don't think people understand how
Well,
that.
if you sell a stock short, you sell 1,000 shares at $2. If you sell 1,000 shares at $2, you get there's $2,000 in your account. You just don't get the money. They just say, "Oh, you're a winner. Here's your money. You sold 1,000." You get your money when you buy it back. So if you buy it back to $1, you make $1, and then you get your $2,000. You get your $1,000 profit.
Okay.
That's when the money's released. So all the proceeds of this money is laying in an account somewhere, just like the movie The Big Short. It's in that box at the airport. You got the key. Go open it up. So the money's there, and that's why you see a lot of wash trades, because they're stealing money every day. The stock they sell at $5 short. All right, let's say they sold $1 million at $5 short. The stock is $1. They crossed 1 million shares at $1. That means they got profit of $4. All right, so they close out the account. Some account that they sold, whoever sold it at 5 has now made $4 million. And that account is closed, and they take the money out. Now there's a new account that's short 1 million shares at $1 now. So they just basically defrauded their own prime brokers, is what they did.
Yep.
They moved the money from one account to another account. And that's why they have all those wonderful LLCs that we pointed out.
Well, somebody's very persistent in asking this question. You answer it the way I don't quite understand the question. Can GTII do something to cause a vote from shareholders to get a shareholder count, even though they own more than 50% of the shares? Answer that the way it makes sense to you.
Shareholder vote is another problem. Okay, I remember a shareholder vote many years ago, and people voted and then they had to take another vote a couple of days later. People that owned 1 million shares had to vote for 10 shares. The next couple of days later, they didn't even sell their stock. They had to vote again. They had to do a vote over again. And the same person had a share count. He had 1 million shares. He got to vote for 2,000 shares. So what they do is Merrill Lynch gets a card. Let's say Merrill Lynch owns 10 million shares at the DTC. That's the physical shares. Merrill Lynch will get voting cards for 10 million shares. But Merrill Lynch internally owns 100 million shares. So they spread that 10 million voting cards over to everybody. And in a couple of days, the votes changed. They gave out votes on Monday, and they did it next Monday, and everyone got different numbers next Monday without even buying or selling a share of stock. So Merrill Lynch is just making it up, just giving it out to anybody. They didn't even check what they did the last week. They just gave them out to anyone. Get rid of them.
When you compare that to what's going on, and particularly in the oil and gas business, with BlackRock has ESG, environmental, social, and governance requirements if they give money. Well, that's a big governance issue in the stock market.
Listen, there's 100 things wrong with the equity market. The number one thing is stock settlement. I posted an old video up there, and I forget, there was a senator from California. He started it. It's a 6-minute, 7-minute clip, and it's pretty easy. He tells you that this is a major problem in our system and the government and the equity markets. And it was 2007, it's 2023. They can't fix it. All the money's stolen. Let's say it's 300 million shares, like we said, and it's $2. There's $600 million someplace, right?
Right.
$600 million. If the stock goes to 10, okay, and we just said 2, that's $8 times 300 million shares. Who's paying for it?
Yeah.
Do you understand? These guys don't have the money. And if it happens in GTI, it's going to happen in 50 others, 500 other stocks. That's what the fear is here. But they can't hold it down. It's going to happen when it happens. I don't know when it's going to happen.
And that's why MMTLP's efforts are so powerful too, because just calling out the problem could trigger this situation and many others.
Well, they did. They have triggered it. They've done a great job. And they have triggered it because it's going to happen because of what they've done with FINRA. FINRA talking out loud has basically exposed the whole system. That was it. It's right there. FINRA hiding the numbers from everyone basically told us what I wanted to know. The system is broken. You all know it now. FINRA is hiding the proof from the investing public. Why? That Mark Bazile has to go out there and actually have to go and get a judge to find out what the hell they know.
That's incredible.
It's incredible is right. Anyway, listen, I'm going to watch the Amazon movie, and I think we're going to have a good week. So have a great night, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
All right, Hamster. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye. I'm going to excuse myself for a second just to take a quick break. They sprayed poison up there for insects, and I just want to wash my face because I don't want to inhale it all, although it's still going to be in the air. I'll be right back. sorry about that. All right, Scott, I want to answer your question. When I was a big shot on Wall Street, just kidding. When I often had tens of millions of dollars even hundreds of millions of dollars in my accounts as not 200. I don't think it ever got to 200, but many times over 100 million in my accounts that were waiting stock delivery. And this business we did at a very low cents per share, but it was extremely valuable to the firm. Why? Because of what they called free credit balances. Free credit balances on the for the firm and for the office to have millions of dollars sitting there that they didn't owe any interest payment on. It wasn't in a money market. That yes is the answer. They can use it. They can use it as you put it, collateral. It has value to the firm. I don't know the show Billions. What did Will say if that was funny? Unacceptable, William. Sit. Well, all right. They sprayed this it smells like wasp spray, but it just came down. So anyway, I just wanted to wash my hand. I also wanted to get a light here because anyway, too much information. Apes Together, that's the name of the movie. So anyway, I'll answer questions. It looks like my mic went out, so you might not get the, that smell, it's just awful. Insecticide. Yeah, I don't know what's happened to my mic. Maybe I have to buy a new one. I've had this for a while, but it doesn't seem to. Yeah, let me see if I can put this in one more time. All right, I think you can hear me now. Billions. All right, the mic is fine. Okay. Billions. Billions and billions. One Fix It Man. He picked up on your question. I have to admit, One Fix It Man, that I got a little confused by how I was reading your question. But he picked right up on it, and that's a huge issue. It's a huge issue. Thoughts? JM Photographic, I don't know what you are asking me to think about. That's very interesting, Pete Tong. On FINRA's website, they tell their members how to apply for blue sheets, and everything's great. And then they tell Mark it's cumbersome and will show trade secrets. Look, that reminds me of the joke that in the Jerry Seinfeld used to have comedians driving in cars or something like that. And Norm Macdonald got in the car with Jerry Seinfeld, and they started talking about Bill Cosby. And Bill Cosby I don't know. I hope, Busy Brands, you're not being sarcastic. You said thank you and you're welcome, but I hope you're not being sarcastic because, yeah. But anyway, you're welcome. I'm not sure what you're thanking me for. Comedians in cars getting coffee. So anyway, they start talking about how they used to listen to Bill Cosby records, and then of course it went to what Bill Cosby had done, and I can't repeat it the way Norm Macdonald did it because he's just so talented. But he said he would get up in front of his live audiences and would ask, "What's worse?" Because Bill Cosby would take these women upstairs or whatever and then lie about it. And so he'd say, what's worse? I forget how he did it. But the hypocrisy, is it the hypocrisy that bothers you? Or is it... Oh, all right. I can try to do that, Busy. I didn't know what you... It was out of the blue, but yeah, I'll see if we can go on. Everyone's here. We'll see if we can get on there, and let her know, Busy. We will. But anyway, he said, "Is it the hypocrisy?" And everyone gets upset at the hypocrisy of Bill Cosby, and Norm Macdonald goes, "No, for me, that's not the big issue. It's the raping. The raping is the big problem." But anyway, that's what it... When you bring this up, it seems like FINRA and the rest are being hypocritical, which is a big issue. But on the other hand, it's the stealing that goes on that's really the crime. I didn't do justice to his joke. All right. So Anna with Busy Brands, has a call going.
For Congress to ask FINRA. And we'd like to ask that they ask FINRA those questions during that closed-door meeting. Years, and again, I will be posting information on that in the space in the morning. So.
Thank you, Savvy. And I see that And I got William in here for you. You were requesting William. And also JR took a mic.
Oh, yeah. Hey, William. I just wanted to say that was a great space, and you and Ham covered everything, and just wanted to thank you for it. So you're probably still on your call on YouTube.
No,
I didn't mean to pull you away.
no. I'm glad.
You're here.
One thing I want to say to you and to Junk Savvy yesterday. Oh no, I'm lost in time. Friday on my call, one gentleman said that Junk Savvy has the nicest voice, and Anna does too. That was the compliment they gave to both of you.
He always tells me that all the time.
Well, that's very kind of whoever said that, William. Well, I won't speak for Anna, but I know that I appreciate it. So thank him for that. I'll pass the gratuity on to my mother, who I get the voice from. So.
Go ahead, JR.
Yeah, just I'll give one initial thought. I put it up in the nest because I was particularly proud of that tweet this morning. I was feeling a little snarky all day. Obviously, you guys, I'm sure you can tell by some of the tweets I sent. I'm blaming Anna because Anna graciously invited me to come with to DC, and I'm very close to making that happen. So close that I decided to break out my suit, and I took one look at it and thought, I am not fitting in that thing. So yeah, that kind of set my mood for the day. And well,
You don't need a suit. Sorry to interrupt. You don't need a suit.
Well, that's good because I don't have one. So
JR, just don't wear a polo. Promise me you won't wear a just so you guys know, JR asked me some fashion advice. He had something he had to go to, and I was like, whatever you do, don't wear a polo.
yeah, so
leave that on the golf course.
So it set my mood for the day. I put that tweet up because I think it sums up one particular aspect of their argument that I thought, you know, and you guys have heard me say this often, it did not pass the laugh test. So I was pretty proud of that one. So other than that, Richard and I have been DMing basically nonstop all weekend. So we will be in a space at some point. We just kind of don't know when. I had a printer fail this afternoon that I'm going to work on tomorrow to print and highlight and make notes. So that's all I got, folks.
Thanks, JR. I'm so glad you're gonna come. I'm gonna feel let down when you can't. But if you can, I will understand.
I think I can. I just need to say something to my boss tomorrow and take the day off. I have nothing with the family going on that day, so it really shouldn't be a problem. So.
And then, guys, if you want, please reach out to me because this is a really important initiative that we're taking is to try to get more feet on the ground in DC, to share our side of the story and, you know, educate these staffers, these high-level staffers in Congress, because it really does make a difference. It's night and day once you can. It's just like William was saying earlier, and we've discussed before. Like once you know something, you can't unknow it. So it is a matter of like educating these different staffers, and then in turn they will talk to Congress on our behalf. And like Savvy was saying, you know, when it's very important that you reach out to your representative that represents you in DC, and they can write a letter or send an email on your behalf to all of those different services like the Financial Service, the Oversight Committee, and the Senate Banking. But please do make sure that we're still reaching out to your representative, and then because when you get through to them, they're going to say, well, have you reached out to your representative? And the more they hear from different people in Congress, then it gets a buzz. You know, they all talk to each other, so that's how the word gets spread. And I'm going to put up in the nest, guys, that call to action. So if you guys want to reach out to me, I'm putting these DM groups together for that congressional outreach.
Thank you, Anna. I see Dr. Demo. You took a mic. What's up, Dr. Demo? You there? Also, Ace. Excuse me. Also, Ace, I see you in the crowd. If you want to come up here.
Ace is here. Ace is here.
You're more than welcome to. Dr. Demo, you have to unmute yourself. If Dr. Demo is not available. Savvy, you could still carry on. I'm trying to get Richard Hoffman in here. I know that he was listening in. I don't see him, and he said that he was going to take a mic. So I don't know. JR, did you say that you guys are going to do a space call together in regards to some information?
We're not going to open a space. I think we're going to join a space in the morning and join a space in the evening.
Okay, so maybe if you guys just want to wait for that, that's fine.
Yeah. Look, I didn't get to read this thing the way I normally read them yet. So I've read it 3 times now, but I need my red pen, my highlighter, and paper.
All right, so let's just.
And JR needs a Snicker bar to get through that.
No, actually, that's part of the problem. I need less Snicker bars. That's why I'm not fitting in my seat.
That's why the seat doesn't fit. I don't know. Maybe we need Snarky JR to attack this thing because it's pretty weak. That word was kind. So.
All right, so I'm not gonna, because I know that we were DMing each other, so I'll just let him know that let's just wait for the morning. That way that you could be prepared also, JR. So I see that William has his hand up. Let's go to William, and then I see that Rock 617 took the mic. Go ahead, William.
Yeah, quickly, I don't know, Busy, if you can do it, or maybe JR can just tell me. Is there a place I can find these documents to download? That's one thing. Secondly, one of my people, Mama Duck, said while Ham was speaking that she's losing hope for MMTLP, and I just want to say that you shouldn't lose hope. I think it's taking a long time because the system got caught out, and like Ham was saying, they really don't know what to do. But I don't know what Mama Duck meant by losing hope. If she's talking about losing her money, I don't think anybody will lose their money. I probably paid the most for my shares of MMTLP of anybody on this call, and I'm 100% confident that I'll eventually get at least at a minimum get my money back. I guess if she's talking about time, I can't. Yeah, she's got a point. It is taking time, but I don't think anyone should lose hope on MMTLP at all. It's just how we're going to get paid and how much is yet to be decided. But anyway, Busy, if you can tell me how to
William,
link it.
I just DM'd you the link.
Okay,
so
great.
It's in your DM.
Thank you.
For anyone else in the space, I put the breaking news tweet up in the nest that has the DM in the link as well. And in the chat of the link that gives the 4 reasons that Finner gave for not releasing the blue sheets.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know how to check that DM, right, William? If not, I'll DM you actually, I'll text you the tweet. That way that
you're the best. I want to grow up and be just like you.
Stop it. We'll get that over to you. All right, Rock, you have to.
Jeff, we missed your humor.
Thank you, guys. Wanted to is Rock from Boston. 2 things I gotta say. First is it is amazing to see what happens, to see what happens when people come together. The power of the people. Obviously, MMTLP, it was a huge hit to me and my family. I had my sister, my brother involved. We believed in it, and we still believe in it. And I think it's the best play we've ever got involved in, to be honest with you. But what I'm really amazed about is the power of the people. When people come together, what they could accomplish is just amazing. And I feel like
David Suckermouth, you ask the longer it takes, does it work to our advantage? I think yes.
We can literally accomplish anything and go against, or not go against, go up and question bills that are getting passed, or why there's certain things going on in this world that we're not comfortable with. And I feel like this community just showed that to the whole world. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, Lena, let me see what you're.
Thank you, Rock. Sorry, I was trying to mute. Dr. Demo, are you back? Dr. Demo.
Lena.
Right, let's drop him down. Maybe he can't hear me. Also, Anna, did you say there was a space call that's going to happen in regards of Retail United?
Yeah, I think at 9:30, Sean and I spoke earlier today, and Rich Fizz, I think, is going to open
Lena,
it. And
I
he's gonna
appreciate
co-host.
blunt
Okay.
assessments.
He's going to discuss Retail United. And,
Just don't turn your assessments
I
on
know
me.
there's been some controversy over the weekend, so just to discuss, what the vision is for Retail United, and so that's what's going to happen, I think, at 9:30.
All right, awesome.
I'm going to just check with him to make sure it's still on, but I'm pretty sure it's still in.
Yep, I'll get with Sean, I'll get with Doku, and then we're going to go ahead
That's
and shut
good,
down that way
Jeff.
that everybody can attend that space call. We've been running already for, that'll be 3 hours. Damn, time flies by. So, go ahead and take over the mic, whatever you want to add. Savvy, William,
right.
JR, I know you're up here. And then I'll get together with Sean, and then I'll post the link up in the nest.
Yeah, no, I'm good unless anyone has any questions specific to Mark's schedule or the release of the FINRA response, but otherwise I'm good.
And I'll just say from my audience and everyone, people are wishing Ace the best. They know that he's been moving and they miss him. I want to read everything, but in listening to the space calls and in discussions, my own opinion for what it's worth, I think Alpine's on its back feet and doesn't have much longer to stand. And I don't think the judge is going to go with what the lawyers are saying. It's desperate, I think, on the part of the lawyers. So I think you could get some really good news. I know I'm mixing here because I'm talking about Alpine, which is GTII, but I think both cases are so close in timing. Anyway, I think both in MMTLP and in Alpine we're going to be getting some good feedback soon. But that's just my opinion. I guess we lost them. I can't hear anything they're saying. I can't hear anybody.
Busy doing what Busy does in the background, so no worries about it.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just confirm it with Sean, just to make sure. I got Cornelius is asking for a mic. Go ahead, Cornelius. Go ahead, Cornelius. You have the mic.
Real quick, this question's for William. I just heard what you stated, William. What gives you that feeling? I mean, what are you basing that idea on about TLP and GTII?
Well, I still have to read the documents on MMTLP, but I think the arguments there are really weak. I think Mark filed I think he calls it an administrative request, and the responses are they're laughable. So I don't. Obviously, the lawyers can continue to file, but at some point, I think FINRA is going to provide the blue sheets, and it's going to rock your world or the world of a lot of these stocks. That's just my feeling. I will read it and give you a better assessment. I'll read it tonight. And on GTII, I think Alpine has played out their hand, and they're about to lose big time. And for the same reason. If you read what the lawyers are saying, it's just weak. And you know, I know they have big names at the end and they have a big letterhead, but they're just human beings throwing CRAP up against the wall, hoping it sticks. And I don't think in either case they're gonna stick. But that's why I said that, Cornelius.
No, I agree. I was kind of surprised that these high-paid attorneys release such elementary reasons, and it kind of caught me off guard because I was expecting something, a little more major or concrete. But
And
I will say, if you look back at what, and this was most likely not the same lawyer that FINRA used both in Rosa's case for doing the rebuttals to her, and potentially Richard's case, is that their responses have been lackluster. But the bottom line is particular to this one, they just really have nothing, because if you look at Mark's argument, and the arguments that have been put forth in all the tweets that we've been posting, is they really are backed into a corner. They cannot provide a legitimate excuse for the reasons that these blue sheets cannot be produced. And so they're just grasping at straws at this point. But I had, William, do you mind if I ask you a question?
yes.
So, yes, you mind, or yes, I can?
No, I meant yes, ask it.
I know. So, being that this is kind of setting a pattern and a precedent for potentially other tickers, do you feel like this decision is going to rock the short world? And do you think that they will, out of fear and concern, because I know a lot of them are emboldened, do you think that we will see covering of short positions market-wide, or do you think they will simply wait for these petitions to be filed in court and litigated in court? Because surely these bills are going to start racking up. I know we are starting a new campaign with MMTLP that you reach out to your legal aid and find out if your state has the similar laws, and if not, even if your state doesn't, like mine, Oregon does not, there is still the federal statutes that allow me to file for similar information. You don't get a file for documents, but you get to depose. And so, imagine getting Sam Drady in a deposition and starting to ask questions. So there are other opportunities for us to do this. Do you think it's going to scare them enough to get them to correct their behavior, or no?
A couple of things. One, by making these, what I think Cornelius was correct in his description of these filings. There's not a lot of there, but they file it so there's not I'm not a lawyer, but so there's not a technical mistake. So the court has to follow whatever procedure. They're just hoping for a miracle, and it's not going to happen. But to answer your question, it's, in my opinion, and you may disagree, but I hung out for years with all manner of Wall Street people. I would say that 99, and if you wanted to get it down to 98%, I might accept that, of people on Wall Street are honest. I think most of you know more about this situation than your high-powered broker, their manager, or anybody in the back offices that you're calling on the phone right now. So I think as this information comes out, there's going to be an awareness of the issue, which has been basically covered because the computers hum along. The failed to delivers move on down the line. It's never caught anybody out until MMTLP, until a private company. So one, I think the awareness is going to hit like a thunderclap. And so you're going to have a lot of people going, oh my gosh, we have a real problem here. The second thing is, I don't think they're, and I don't know what you were asking me, if they're afraid of going to jail or just afraid of losing money. This is what I'm pushing for. The way to get Wall Street to enforce Gary Gensler's rules is because they're going to lose a lot of money. And I think that's what's going to scare them out. And yes, I think there will be covering. Just look at MMTLP. I think somebody said there's 109 broker-dealers in this stock. Just using the law, the 80-20 rule, 80% of those broker-dealers don't want to even be involved in this situation. They would have already covered it. But they're caught out because the system stopped the trading. And that's, I think, is the case in most of these positions. You're going to see covering and reducing of risk both for violating. They don't want to lose their franchise, so they don't want to violate securities laws. The first time around, the judge or the regulator, if there is such a thing anymore, can say, so what did you do? Once you found out, what did you do? The second time, they can't. The answer can't be, our systems didn't catch it, we didn't know about it. The second time, it's fraud. So yes, I think that the blue sheets that Mark and all of you are causing to get delivered, I believe it's going to be a earthquake on Wall Street.
Hey, let's have JR chime in before JR chimes in, though. I posted the tweet on the Nest that Rich is going to open up a space along with Sean from Retail United. Sean, you don't have to take a... I know that you're putting your little one to sleep. Other than that, William, I did text you Savvy's link to her tweet, which has the documents. For anybody listening in, that tweet is also on the Nest if you want to download those documents and read them for yourself. Go ahead, JR, you have the mic.
No, I was just going to follow up on something William said. You know, a lot of times they make the arguments they're making to build a record. Remember, you know, if FINRA loses, they're going to appeal. So you see the four large arguments that they made, but then when you start to read in detail, they're peppered with smaller arguments. And I'll give you an example. You know, about 2 or 3 of my tweets were poking a little fun at their smaller arguments, that it's overly burdensome, that we're not smart enough to read it, so we really shouldn't have it, that it's proprietary. So those were all smaller arguments that they wove into their larger legal and factual arguments. So, but they do that to build a record, because on appeal, if they didn't say it at the trial court, it's not an appealable. It's not an appealable argument that they can make. So that's why you see what they did.
So you mean they threw the kitchen sink at it just to get it on the record?
Yeah, but you know what? I don't really feel like they threw the kitchen sink. I feel like they threw the bathroom sink. You know, their major arguments. I mean, you know, you never know what a judge is going to do, but look how easily it was to poke fun at some of their arguments today. I mean, you know, this notion that it's overly burdensome. Well, wait a minute. You pulled them on the 5th, so you already have them. You know, and then think about what the bankruptcy judge did. Now, did the bankruptcy judge change gears. The bankruptcy judge in, somebody help me out, what was the ticker? I don't remember. SQNX or whatever. But that bankruptcy judge basically said to the brokers, this is what we want, and we want it in 24 hours. So if it's not overly burdensome for the brokers to get it in 24 hours, why the hell is it overly burdensome for FINRA to get it in, you know, what has now been 6 months? And that begs the question, if it's overly burdensome to get, they already pulled them, assuming, you know, Mr. Drady was honest in his email and is honest in his affidavit, assuming they already have them, this shouldn't be at all burdensome. So you can see how easily it is to poke holes in some of these arguments. On some level, it defies a little logic. You know, the other thing is this notion that, well, you can't have them because you really wouldn't understand them. Are you kidding me? You're going to argue that to a judge? Sorry, judge, we can't even show them to you because you're not going to understand them? Think about that as a sitting judge. What's your first response going to be? So, yeah, it's a little silly, some of the arguments they made, quite frankly.
I think that one of the things that might be going on, these are all sharks. And if they release the blue sheets, it's going to show which shark is bleeding. And then the other sharks are going to attack that bleeding shark. And I think FINRA might be protecting one or more of the banks, prime brokers. But
I mean, my own personal opinion is, if they lose here, what happens? You know what I mean? What do some of these other tickers do? They go, yeah, I've known noticed a little illegal activity in my ticker as well. So it's a problem for them.
Well, and
JR, let me ask you a question. So, when do you know offhand, and I've been trying to look and I haven't found it yet, what dates that Mark was requesting for the blue sheets? By the way, the response so far that I've read never even mentions MMAT when Mark petitioned for both MMAT and MMTLP. So I find it interesting. I haven't seen a reference to MMAT yet. Not saying there's not one there. I just haven't seen it. But do you remember the dates that Mark is requesting? Could they argue then that, well, we pulled him on the 5th, but he's asking for the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and we don't have that?
No, not off the top of my head, but that's something that's easily fixable.
I agree with you, Tuck.
Of course. I just wanted to let you guys know when you ask about what other tickers are going to do. So up in the nest is the petition that would require FINRA to release quarterly blue sheet reports to publicly traded companies. So if you guys can go up, I mean, that would help defeat some of this issue right there. So if you guys would go up to the nest and tweet that out, but also go and sign that petition if you feel so inclined. That would be fantastic. Also, there's a few other tweets up there and things that you guys can do while we're continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Savvy. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the space. Everybody has like 4 minutes before Sean and Don Fizz open up a space, and I'll see you guys there. Thank you for attending, and see you on the next one. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, William. Thank you, Savvy. Thank you, JR. And thank you, anybody that contributed today. And thanks to him. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, Busy.
Okay. So I don't know who that other person is that's opening a space. And so anyway, we can talk a little while longer. It's 9:30 almost. Maybe go to 10 o'clock. That smell of the raid is like, ugh. All right, MKC. Trying to remember some of the questions you guys put out that didn't get answered. I can't remember. So if you had them, we can talk about them. But somebody asked a question about... Anyway, I just can't remember them all. Unfortunately... I know citronella, but I didn't use the raid. Somebody up there sprayed it. Which, you know, it's their house. I get it, but ugh. I don't ever use that stuff unless it's really urgent, but I don't know. All right, I wanted to just, I forget who it was. I think it was AC yesterday talking about it with me. I always feel like somebody's watching me. That's very good. Very good. It's very good. Watch this. This is all we know so far, if AC's still watching. We got Alcaraz against Tsitsipas, Djokovic versus Kachanov. And I think Tsitsipas can beat the cocky Alcaraz, but Alcaraz looks tough. You got to admit. And I think Djokovic will beat Kachanov, but it'll be a tough match. There's AC. AC and the Sunshine Band. Yeah, I hate bug spray. I don't like the bugs all that much, but one thing I notice about bugs, you can leave them alone, you know? You don't. They mostly stay outside. Yeah, I want Djokovic to win it all. I think it's going to be tough. I heard today, AC, I listened to this guy, Gil Gross, and he was observing that Djokovic is serving more side spin than top spin on his serves to protect his elbow. So that makes me a little nervous. But I want Djokovic to win it all, too. Yeah, Savvy's got a voice for radio. So does Anna. Anna has a good voice for radio. Well, Rude, I guess, is it's Runa and Rude, Rudd and Rune. They're going to meet each other. And if I had to pick between them, I think Runa will beat Rude. But we'll find out. And I think in the bottom, Echeverria is going to go farther than... forget who he's playing. The Japanese guy, Nika. Anyway, the semifinal match, if both of them get there, between Alcaraz and Djokovic, or between Djokovic and Tsitsipas, if that's how it turns out, that's going to be the final. Whoever wins that, I think, will win in the final. I know, Jeff, you have a face for radio and a voice for Joe Mama. Wow, 12th load of laundry. Jenny Rebecca. That's a lot of laundry. Just remember that the hamburger gets a cup of red wine for every pound of beef. Wow, you're cooking something. Anyway, guys, I don't know. Jeff, you got to be careful with Jeff. He's got a good wit. He keeps his wit about him. He keeps his wits about. It's good to keep your wits about you. Is that Tuesday? Well, AC, I'm really disappointed with NBC because I don't want to insult anybody, but they moved to. They only have one channel. So they moved the men's tennis off to put up a women's match. I, for one, almost always am not interested in the women's match, whoever it is. Sometimes they're good, but most of the time I want to see the men's match. And they did that today. But then the other thing, they're starting so late. So, like tennis TV gives you the men's match and the women's match, so you can pick which one you want to watch. But anyway, I hope we get to see it on Peacock TV, on NBC. I know, Jenny L. I've got... hey, thanks, Jack Hamilton, for being here and putting up with it. I think listening to everything, I wish I were more conversant in... Oh, God, I can't stand it. I wish I were more conversant in exactly what the judge said in MMTLP. But I did read the 4 points they made, and it just is so... it's thin beer. And then with Alpine, I just think those lawyers are on their last legs. I know Jenny Rebecca is a kind, hardworking, and intuitive person. And I'll have to get this recipe you guys are talking about. Oh, I love this guy. I love this guy. He's such a good guy. He's such a good guy. Look at that. He's come out to check the yard. He's getting old. Everyone loves him except maybe one or two people. I know I love him. He's such a good boy. Such a good boy. There, he hears something. He loves to be out here. He just loves it because it smells and it sounds and it's being included. But he misses my other place. He misses my other place where I had a lot of people. Well, there's my neighbor at my anyway. She didn't like him just because he's of his breed, and that wasn't very fair. And that's what he runs into, is discrimination, because he's a bully dog. But he's just a big goofball, he loves people, and he just wants to be included. Anyway, so I think on GTII, I get a little bit discouraged, just like the rest of you guys must. And I kick myself that I didn't trade it differently. What do you mean, Pete Tong? I want to read what Pete's saying. Glad to see you're back to being the Bill we all love. I think the negative peeps were grinding on you, as they've been paid to do. Keep well. Yeah, Pete, I'm not as what's the word? I'm not as tuned in as Jenny is, or as perceptive, but I think a lot of it gets to me. I think I pick up on a lot of all of that. I also can't help but sometimes get run down. But I gave you the other day, I forget, Friday or Thursday, I was answering to somebody, but I meant it for everyone, which is you just got to accept that this might go on longer, but I'm at peace with my decision to just hold. I'll add if I can. But I recognize they could drive GTII downward because they've done it in the past. And at any point in time, a stock can go down. It's just the facts check. But and that's why I asked Ham that today. You heard Ham's answer on the setup. If I recall his two reasons, one was you have a trap short. Two was education. Everybody no one's selling. And I'm missing one of his points. God, that smell drives me crazy. I'm sure it's killing all the bees. Oh, that's why you have all that. I know, Jenny. I won't go too late. I feel fine though. Yeah, I'm getting romantical. Brian, I had a girlfriend. Really, I did. And that's what she called it, romantical. No, it's all right. There's plenty of air. I'm just being sensitive. I wonder what this other space call is. No. I just don't know where the space. What? I don't know how to find it. It's last time I went on a space call, which was MMTLP, and I thought I was welcome. I got really kind of cornered, so I'm a little bit reluctant just to join a call where I don't know the host. I trust for me, when Drew Diligence is hosting, or when Busy Brands is hosting, or when Anna is hosting, that's about as far. Well, I guess Junk Savvy too. Oh, really, Kristen? Shaughnessy, Lucky is 13 years old. Oh, don't tell me he could go. Yeah, I'm not going to go on a space call. I'm sorry you lost your dog, because I just don't know what I'm going to. I think it'll crush me. At least you have kids and other people, but for me, oh my gosh, I think it's going to be devastating. And I don't know what I'll do. But for now, I just take time to tell him I love him every single day, and I don't know. I think, Paulie, I'm not 100% sure that Alpine will be expelled today, but the way I read what the judge, we're talking about Alpine and GTII, the way, and they changed venue, but the judge can read all that. And I personally think that as soon as tomorrow at 9:30, the judge could just summarily rule, unless she needs to have all parties show up in her court, and that might be just subject to the availability on her docket. Maybe it's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But the way I read it, I think the judge is fed up, or picking up on the other judge being fed up. But I think they've given Alpine's attorneys all the rope they want to give. That's one. But what other trick could the lawyers have? I don't know. I'm not an attorney. But I think they've really gone down to the end of their bag of tricks. And then secondly, I think FINRA's just stomping at the trough to expel Alpine as soon as possible. So I think if the judge does have the ability to just say it's over, I think immediately FINRA will expel Alpine. So my answer to you is yes, it could be this week. But if the lawyers can put one more stumbling block, well, then the judge is going to be careful to make sure that she honors that, so they can't appeal it or make a, I don't know what you call it, a suit saying the judge didn't follow everything properly. So, but yeah, I think it's chomping at the bit. Yep. I think it could be a great week, Jenny. Jenny, Rebecca, I know. I already walked him. And, oh, Jeff, so you have cats. I love that. I hope with Jeff, with this trade, you can find a place. Dogs, cats, chickens, ducks, geese, goats, and horses. I watched a video. I wonder if I can find it, Jeff. It made me think about just what you're doing. Let me see if it's... I just watched it today. Let me just see if I can find it. It's not very long. If I can find it. Oh, yeah, here it is.
Eclipse. Here, girl. Run. Daisy. Hi. Cool. Molly. Molly. Hi, Molly. Henry. 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 There you go. Oh, hi. Good girl. Rosie. Dream. Hi, Dream girl. Captain. Who's so smart?
That video is all about how animals respond to their name. So it made me think. It made me think about how nice it would be to have a... I don't know if I could run a farm, but just to, have a bigger place and have animals. I don't know if you've ever read, that movie Blade Runner. It was based on a book called something like Do Sheep Dream or Do Animals Dream or something like that by Philip K. Dick. But when you read the book, and I read it and the next one, what's really gloomy about that book is there aren't any live animals on Earth except for a few. And so having pets becomes this exotic experience. You have to have a lot of money or be fortunate. Anyway, science fiction is a way of extrapolating trends. And I hope that we keep our animals around. We're just so fortunate to live on a planet largely with animals and insects and birds and fauna. It's not fauna. Trees and grass that's friendly to us. It's amazing. It's amazing anyway. All right, so it's 9:49. Unless we get in, hey Robert. Well, you can always play it back. I think I went on at 7:10, something like that, and he came on at 7:30. So somewhere about 20 or possibly 25 minutes into this Time Life video. Transformers with your son. I've never watched Transformers, but that would be great if he enjoys it. I never had I had younger brother and sister, but I read somewhere, and all you parents would know, but I think when you're under the age of 8, it might be 12, but I think it's somewhere around 8, your brain isn't divided. So it's still the synapses go back and forth quickly, and that's why children learn so rapidly. But it's also why children perceive magic and stories, and on a level that we, as you get older, your brain chops out some of that, because we couldn't deal with the world if we had all that sensory input flooding our brain without limit. As we get older, we need our thoughts more. I guess we have to live in the 5% of our brain that is conscious and rational. I mean, if you're a man, it's rational. If you're a woman, it's irrational. No, that's a joke. Don't get mad at me. That's a joke. That is a joke. Many men are irrational. Actually, most people are irrational. Jesus says, which is why to be more like little children. Well, I also think, I don't want to get off into all the religious thing, but I've noticed in my own, my dad's family, and in several families outside of my birth family, that when my aunts and uncles, and then my dad as well, by being, my dad always put God in first place. He didn't talk about it much. You just saw him do it. But I think what happens over time is you come back to being a child because you leave it up in God's hands. And so it's interesting, Jeff, that you put it that way, because it's almost a childlike faith in God, but it brings a serenity and a peace that takes a long time to achieve, I think, but once achieved is wonderful. It's like Nelson Mandela coming out of prison for all those years. He came out with a big smile and a joy for life. I might have been bitter, but he didn't show that. Anyway. There you go, Robert. A child can believe without seeing physical evidence. Robert, you couldn't say it better. And that's where I get a little frustrated in our current battle with lawyers. And I know I don't want to be unfair to lawyers because they're trained very well, but they have to see this evidence. They can't believe what's going on, and it's not their fault. They would know. If it were something that they walked into court and the lawyer on the other side, I'm making it up, filed a 521 or whatever, the lawyer would instinctively know, oh, they're just being screwy. They're doing this without seeing the evidence. But lawyers don't know. They haven't traded in the markets, so they need to learn and see the evidence. But I like that. A child can believe without seeing physical evidence. And that's the hardest thing about when atheists ask questions, and look, I'm no great shakes at all, but to see evidence. One time I was how old was I? I was probably 18 or 19 years old, and I was in Moscow with my kid brother. I won't say his name, but he was, I could carry him on my shoulder. Now he's much bigger than I am. He's got 3 kids. But this guy would befriend me down when I would be outside. And one time he asked, or it was his idea to go to the zoo. So I took my brother to the zoo. I can still remember it, but I'm not going to say why. It was about one of these big animals. But anyway, we went through all that, and then we were sitting, and it was fun. It was enjoyable, and we were sitting outside on a bench, and I think this guy's name was, I used to remember it. I can still see him. And he would ask me, he would say to me, because he was communist, he would say to me, "You believe in God?" And I said, "Yes, I do." Well, if you believe in God, have him do something. And I'm telling you, I'm no great religious expert. But he would say, "Well, what do you think happens to you afterward? That you go to heaven?" And I said, "Well, I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah, I think there's more than just this life." And he said, I said, "What do you think?" And he says, "I think we live our life, and when we die, that's it." So I said, "Ashes to ashes?" And he looked at me, and I wondered where I came up with that. But he said, "Yeah, when you die, they put you in the ground, and it's over." And I said, "Well, okay." And then he said, "Well, if you believe in God, ask him to do something. Show me. Ask him to move." I think what he said is, "Ask him to move that tree." That's how I remember it. Have him move that tree. And I said, that's not how it works. You can't challenge God to prove his existence. And it was really hard with this guy. I want to say his name was Sasha, but I'm not sure it was. It might have been. Anyway, I couldn't get him to see it my way. I wasn't upset. Later on, my dad told me, he pulled me aside and said, "Who is this guy that you've spent some time with?" I said, "Oh, it's just somebody I met, and he seems like a nice guy." And Dad said, you better keep your distance, because it's come up at the embassy that he's KGB. And so I kept my distance after that. But I like how you phrased that, Robert, because many times people question me because they're atheists, which I respect. Everybody has their own. But this guy's questions were so I don't know what the word is. They were so absolute. His opinion was so absolute. There wasn't much room. But a lot of people that ask me about God, I can tell their questions imply belief in God. But his didn't. His questions did not imply that he had any belief in God. So anyway, I like how you said that, Robert. A child can believe without evidence. That's very, very good. It wasn't Vladimir. It was, if there's another name that begins with S other than Sasha, it might have been that. But anyway, be still and know that I am. Well, I wish I could be still. I was listening today to some Roman intellect, something he said. I forget who it was. And I even forget what he said, but he said that such and such is meant to help us through life's difficulties or through life's journey. That's just, it's intriguing to me that at least 2,000 years, 3,000 years, human beings are going through all the same things each of us go through. And anyway, Joel Dawes, so what's going to happen to GTII? Are we looking good? Have I watched The Chosen? First time, Jimmy, that sounds familiar. So I want to say yes, but I'm not sure if I did. The Chosen. So maybe I just need a little more. It is a beautiful evening. Joel, what I think's going to happen with GTII is you're asking me to make a prediction. I think what's going to happen to GTI this month is it's going to have a rally. Now, tomorrow morning, as ever, they're going to try to knock it down so they can steal from the marketplace and from their prime broker. They have the protection of their attorneys, and they have the indifference of Gary Gensler, the clumsiness of FINRA, and the absolute evilness of OTC markets, allowing them to continue to rob and destroy these companies. And so they're going to keep trying. But what I'm noticing, Joel, is they haven't been able to drive it very low. No one's selling. Buying is coming in. And what I think is going to come to fruition in June as the last month of the second quarter, I think that 19 million shares to buy of GTII is a sign that, I'm just going to name it, I could be wrong, but I think it's Credit Suisse that is holding that 19 million shares naked short, and it's in trouble. UBS has bought Credit Suisse. I don't think they're going to have much time left to cover that position. So I think look, I'm admitting to you, I'm making a lot of assumptions here. But that's my number one thing that I think could happen this month. Number two, I think Alpine is going to go down. Does it happen this week? Does it take another couple of weeks? Does it take another month? Possibly. But I think that the legal system has run out its string, and I think there is a very large position to cover at Alpine. Thirdly, I think that the Kramers are out of this position. Kurt Kramer bragged in New York City 3 weeks ago that he had made a killing in GTII, and now he's just waiting for the lawsuits. I get that third hand, so I don't have proof that happened, but I trust the person who told me that it's good information, but it's third hand. Apparently John Hurry has said similar things. So I think both Kurt Kramer, Seth Kramer, and their sidekick have stopped shorting GTII. I think Alpine has stopped. So what's left? What's left is the feeding frenzy of all these opportunistic shorts trying to steal money out of thin air because Gary Gensler couldn't care anything about the over-the-counter markets. And Ham points out it happens in all markets. I agree. But it's egregious in the over-the-counter markets. So it could go on longer, Joel, but I think it's coming to an end. I also think it's a possibility of the Trento mine deal coming to fruition. And I guess I'd summarize, Joel, I don't know which thing is going to trigger it, but when it goes, it's like it'll be like when Mrs. O'Leary's cow knocked over the lantern. The whole place is going to go up in fire. So, yeah, I think we're in a good place with GTII. But I think you have to accept that it could be drawn out. But drawing it out doesn't mean they're going to win. It just means it's going to take more time. Let me start. Yes, hi Joel. Sven. It wasn't Sven. I'll wake up tomorrow knowing his name. I don't know if I've watched The Chosen. Robert, as a Christian, I find it interesting and worrisome for all the people in these plays that want to be rich. Life isn't any easier. It makes it harder. I think having money just allows, who said it? I can't remember. Just allows you to be unhappier in nicer places. To be unhappy in nicer places. But yeah, I don't think. But it's interesting, Robert. I think if you have money, it buys you time. Just like these in where's that book? I've been reading this book, which I've read before, but I'm enjoying it again. But there's another book out there that I recommend, William Manchester, A World Lit Only by Fire. But the point is, until you have money, until we have machines, even Rebecca with her laundry, and until we had light, and that's what this book pointed out, is the first use for petroleum, first use kerosene, was for light. So it elongated the days, and it made people more productive, but it also gave people time to read, think about God, think about the hereafter. But I agree, Robert, I happen to agree with you. Money, I don't think you have to be poor to get into heaven, although I guess Jesus said something about a camel going through a needle. Because, anyway, I shouldn't speculate because I'm not a trained theologian at all. But it seems to me, if you have money, it doesn't mean you're not going to heaven. They talk about in here, I read the book on him, it was written by I think he wrote a book on Edison too. No, that wasn't it. Maybe. Anyway, I read the book on John Rockefeller, but they're talking about Rockefeller here, and I can almost see who the author was in my head. But one thing Rockefeller did is he taught children at his Baptist church. So here's this man with this horrible capitalist greed taking time to teach God to children. I don't know. It gets really confusing. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. Yeah, Jeff, I remember that. Oh, I see what you're saying. There's like in a rock or something. They called it the eye of the needle, and maybe it was a thin trail. I got you, Jeff. That's the first time you've made it really clear. I remember reading that it wasn't exactly the eye of the needle, but I got you, yeah. Just much more difficult. Got you, Jeff. You're a pretty smart guy. Or a pretty in tune guy. Well, that's right, Robert. But what I noticed also, because I had, in my judgment, I'm sure they have their own opinion, but I got really disappointed in business associates who, to be blunt, cheated me and weren't very had all sorts of rationalizations, and I got upset, and I tried to change it because I couldn't understand it. I tried at first. I got upset with myself. What did I do wrong? My sister said, Bill, you didn't do anything wrong. You trusted them. You can't know how people react until you trust them. That was a good point. One of the guys said, well, of course he's gonna, to be simplistic, cheat you. He has children and I don't. And I'm like, what does that have to do with it? Anyway, my point is, Robert, I went through quite a bit of time being really angry, and at a drop of a hat, I could, because I was wronged, and my brain would go back over and over. I was partly mad at myself that I trusted anybody, and I was upset that, well, I won't go into all the details, but basically it's like being robbed from. And I don't know if the anger was more at myself or at them, but it really ruined a lot of days that I was this. And I tried to enjoy each day and be kind to people and thankful too, but it was like this hair trigger, just a thought, and it could come up. So anyway, Robert, my sister heard, because she's an attorney, and I would discuss some of it with her, and I went through some real difficulties because of it. And she would hear a lot about it. And so she, for example, Robert, she gave me this, one time she invited me over to dinner, and she gave me this, and I have several other things like this that she gave me. She gave me little prayer cards, Anyway, when you're in a certain frame of mind, it's like, oh gosh, come on, Carol, I don't need that. But Robert, my point is, she said to me, this is probably 3 years ago, Bill, are you thinking about your salvation? It's the last thing I wanted to hear from her. I wanted to be upset. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to be... And it was so... The first time she said it to me, it was so out of the blue. I was like, wait a minute. I'm talking about this. And he did that, and he did that, and the document says this, and the. What are you bringing up salvation for? And then, I mean, it's something I think all my life I've thought about, but then some time went by, and more pain comes. It's I've on these calls once before, I brought up the time that Robert Kennedy went to Indianapolis, and he gave a speech off the cuff in Indianapolis the night Martin Luther King got shot and killed. And back then race was, I'm not saying it's not an issue now, but back then it was the way Hillary Clinton tries to talk about it, even though she was on the wrong side of it back then. But the way she tries to get it out there against white supremacists now, it was that way then. And there were no cell phones. There weren't barely televisions. It was in the summer, as I recall. And his advisors said, you can't go down there. It's not safe. And he said, he said, no, I'm going. And he went down to Indianapolis. I mean, down to downtown or whatever, wherever the speech was. He stood on I think it was a truck flatbed. And he had a speech in his hands, notes I guess his staff had written up. He held it in his hands. He never read from it. And I might read it to you. Yeah, I'll read it to you. It's not that long. But the thing to remember is in Indianapolis, it was the only city they didn't riot. I live now very close to where the riots happened here. But he said, he got up there and he said, I have bad news for you and for all of our fellow citizens and people who love peace all over the world. And that is that Martin Luther King was shot and killed tonight. Martin Luther King dedicated his life to love and to justice for his fellow human beings. And he died because of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it is perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in. For those of you who are black, considering the evidence, there evidently is that there were white people who were responsible. You can be filled with bitterness, with hatred, and a desire for revenge. we can move in that direction as a country in great polarization, black people amongst black, white people amongst white, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and to replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that has spread across our land, with an effort to understand with compassion and love. For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and distrust the injustice of such an act against all white people, I can only say that I feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to go beyond these rather difficult times. And this is, Robert, where I'm coming. My favorite poet was Aeschylus. He wrote, quote, "In our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until, in our own despair, against our own will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." Unquote. What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence or lawlessness, but love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, and a feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or they be black. So I shall ask you tonight to return home, to say a prayer for the family of Martin Luther King. That's true. But more importantly, to say a prayer for our own country, which all of us love, a prayer for understanding and for that compassion of which I spoke. We can do well in this country. We will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past. We will have difficult times in the future. It is not the end of violence. It is not the end of lawlessness. It is not the end of disorder. But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life, and want justice for all human beings who abide in our land. Let us dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and our people. He said that speech extemporaneously. But Robert, the part I wanted to get to is I was going through all this anger, and my sister recognized and what I submit to you, Robert, is money might separate people from their journey to God. But I also think some of our other, and now I'll talk like a, maybe I shouldn't, but I think, can I put it this way? I think the devil comes and blocks things in our journey. And it might be money, but it could be anger. It could be hatred that separates us from what I think but don't understand is the love of God that's there just for asking. So now I'm forgetting my point, Robert, but Lucinda Williams had a song that I don't remember the words right now, but I remember part of it, Get Right with God. And I maybe that's why we're here, is to do that. But I also think possibly it's just accepting his love. And it's really hard because I'm not going to talk for you, but it's, I feel completely unworthy. And as a sinner, as someone that's made mistakes of many kinds, not the ones that are all glamorous, that I get a little jealous of, but other things that have consequences. But anyway, I guess, Robert, the one thing so many thoughts are going through my head, but the thing that scares me most is that when I die, am I going to die? When I die, I don't want to hear the words, I didn't know you. And then you're banished. I don't want that. So I guess the thing I always, because we're all only human, and if you're Catholic like I am, you might understand that there's a concept that in every moment in time, in every moral decision, in every act, basically in our entire experience, it's always a battle between good and evil. And I thought that was pretty heavy, being taught that. But there is an aspect of that, and so as a human, we make mistakes. But I think the thing that I don't pray that well, because I don't. But when I do pray, and the thing that I'm the most fervent about is I don't want to be left behind. I'd like mercy and forgiveness so that I am accepted in God's presence, which is my definition of heaven. I've told you before, I heard Denzel Washington on an interview, and I just loved it. He said, I don't care if I'm first or last. I just want to be in that number when the Saints go marching home. I think that summarizes it for me. But anyway, I got off track. Yeah, money, Robert, I used to say, I don't say it so much anymore, but money, it's a funny thing. You can assess a lot about a person 2 times in their life. Because I've raised a lot of money for people. One is when they suddenly get a lot of money, how they behave. And the other is when they lose money, when they lose a lot, or their situation changes to the negative. Those are 2 times you can really learn about people. That's what I think, Jeff. That's what I think. I don't know what it means 100%, but that's what I think. There you go, Rosa, Floor. The only thing money does is to people is reveal them. That's very good, Rosa. That's also very good. The only thing money does to people is reveal them. Robert, there's no timeline really from my opinion now. At first, there's 1/1/23. I don't know which stock I wasn't paying attention, so I apologize. But Louis L'Amour. Wow. I like that, AC. There will come a time when you think everything is finished. That will be the beginning. I like that very much. Maybe that's heaven, absolutely. What's a realistic time frame for MMTLP to be resolved, Bill Cooper? I think, unfortunately, Bill, it's just my opinion. But I think it's I think it's many months away. I think MMTLP will be stretched out. Now, it doesn't mean we won't get the blue sheets right away. And it doesn't mean that there won't be a lot of fireworks. But the stock doesn't trade. So the brokerage system, Bill, can't lose any more than they're losing right. I don't know how to say it to you. There's no incentive for any brokerage firm to go out and buy the shares because the stock's not trading. So I think it's going to be stretched out. And as long as the courts provide shelter from doing any further harm, I think it's going to take a long time. I think FINRA stopped trading. The lawyers are in court. And unless Gary Gensler grows a pair, he's going to let it go through court. So as long as that court system gives protection to all the actors, hey, we were just waiting for the judge. We're just waiting for what was the resolution. They're not causing any further harm because the stock's not trading. So I think I just think it's going to take a long time. That doesn't mean you won't get your money, and it doesn't mean you won't get many, many multiples on your money. That's just seems to be the path that it's going right now. Now, if a regulatory aid person said, we got to resolve this, you could get a resolution right away. if the value of NextBridge grows visibly, dramatically, that's going to be ongoing pressure to. There's to my memory 109 broker dealers involved. Several of these broker dealers are going to want to resolve this situation before it gets really expensive to them. So but I'm sorry, Bill, I just think it's going to take a while. Sorry. Thank you, Bill. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm ready for it to be over. Well, Aaron, maybe HKD. I don't see that Ham keeps talking about HKD in terms of a squeeze, but maybe you're seeing that. Any of these stocks could run. Well, I know it's difficult, but Frank, I guess my point was, I think it's difficult for everybody to get into heaven. Look, I don't think it's my place to ever judge it, because I don't want to. I don't want to be specific to just my faith, because I don't think that's fair to everybody in all the faiths, but or atheists. But I think everyone. Basically, I think everyone goes to heaven. All right, I want to see what quote. Frank Ramos. My father read the Bible. My sister read the Bible. My college roommate read the Bible. But you're absolutely true. We let the priest read the Bible to us. And you're not the first person that's pointed out that I don't know what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to the Bible. And I'm not laughing that I should know, but I'm laughing because you're calling me out on it, and it's accurate. Well, the Kramers and the Hurries. Do you remember, I know you do, somebody does out there. And I have a feeling it was a ship was in a storm. But anyway, to this person, I can't remember the situation. Jesus came and said, "Even now you can turn to the Lord." Or even now you can turn to me. I forget. But I think the Kramers and the Hurries can go to heaven. But I think they may be too far gone in terms of arrogance and They may be too far down a path of their own choice, and then pride gets in the way. And then, ironically, they don't want to be hypocrites. I don't know. It's a risky path they're on. It's a risky path they're on. Well, Aaron Salentine, it has been a crazy stock squeeze from GME and AMC, GameStop and others. This GameStop and AMC, these are the lessons that got out of control. And that's what first brought it to the forefront for many people. Ham had been fighting it for a long, long time. I knew about it, but what I would say I knew about was on the margin. Still bad, and still something that I would tell my corporate clients. I would say to them, they're just giving you your own money. I would see right through it. But I only saw it in the context of IPOs or financings in the moment. In other words, from the quiet period through the green shoe, basically a 3-month period. I didn't know how deep it went until I really started seeing it through the stocks you mentioned, and now these. But what the point I want to make about AMC and GME, they're going to try to do that again. They're going to try to isolate everybody that was in it. Oh, you should have gotten out. Oh, you were just being greedy. Oh, it was just Reddit readers or whatever Reddit people do. And we can't allow them to do it this time. You know, AMC and GME still have huge short positions. It's under control. But it's exposed all these tickers. And now they're going to try to come out, just like they do on the Twitter feeds, and say, oh, the stock's only worth this. It should be down here. Well, let me ask you something. If it should only be worth that, how come we can't print shares out of thin air? How come we can't benefit from it? Number one. Number two, how come when these people save us for ourselves, do they short it with stock that doesn't exist, completely destroying the price discovery mechanisms of the market? How come when they sell it down, breaking securities laws? How come when they get caught, they say, oh, it was inadvertent. Inadvertently, we did such and such. And they hide behind their high-priced attorneys. How come when they do us this big favor, cleansing our markets, how come they get all the profit? And then they don't pay taxes. How come they make? This is for this? They make hundreds of millions of dollars to protect us from pump and dumps? That's what their life is? And they get to decide that they get this glorious recompense? Well, Linda Zaragaza, that's a good name. I wish I could pronounce it. Zaragaza. It's a good name. I have listened to many videos, not recently, on AMC and APE. I've read about it. And there are a lot of people that think AMC is going to have a massive, and GME, massive run. And I think there will come a day when Ken Griffin gets his own comeuppance. But for the time being, I'm concerned in both that the big boys have them under control. But the argument is that they can't keep the pressure on it forever. And even, it's even the bigger numbers with all the billions that they have, hundreds of billions, they can still lose a lot of money. And why? Because they're so greedy. They do everything on leverage. And so I don't think you're stupid, and I don't think you're wrong. But I kind of like Aaron's thinking too. Basically, thank you, Flora. Basically, when you're trying to make money, or you've lost money and you're trying to make it back, you don't have to make it back in the exact same stock. So I think there's several short squeeze setups here, and maybe it's a good idea to own more than one of them. What's been frustrating is every single one gets pressured down at the same time. Wouldn't it be great if one went up so we could get out of that, and then we could spread our risk in more than one play? But I tend to agree with Ham that he refers to a war in the Civil War that I have no background on, Little Round Top. But he says if we can get around Little Round Top, win this battle, we can then go on and win several more battles. Yeah, I know, Frank. Frank, I'm born again. Jesus said that to make it to heaven, you must be born again. Well, Frank, that's what he said to you. And I don't know what born again means as a Catholic, but I'm open to the idea, don't get me wrong, but confirmation might be the same thing as born again. I don't know. The original baptism, the act of baptism, the sacrament of baptism may be the same thing. But I think Catholics go through a lifetime of reawakening their relationship. But anyway, that's Catholicism. There's so many other religions out there that I just suggest to you that maybe Jesus or maybe God comes to others in different ways. I don't know the answer, but I'm not trying to be sacrilegious either. It's not my place to say, but the last pope, not this pope, the last pope, the German pope, changed the liturgy from this is his body. Well, how about this is his blood, which he shed for you and for all men. And of course the English language, men is in reference to everybody, but which he shed for you and for all. Well, the last pope changed that to which he shed for you and many. It might be some. I don't know. Every time I hear it, I react to it badly, because I think, and this is not a very biblical thing to say, but I think Jesus came to forgive everyone, and to say to everyone that it's going to be okay. I mean, he suffered for everyone, in my judgment, in my opinion. And not that it matters what I think. But my sister says, oh, there's a Bible. There's a gospel. I think it's John that says that. I said, okay, all right. But anyway, I just think that God maybe comes to everyone maybe differently. I don't know. That's the hardest thing to understand, isn't it? It's like when you're in kindergarten, someone brings the apple to the teacher, and that little boy thinks they did a great thing, and they should get all the attention from the teacher. But the boy doesn't realize that the teacher's there for all the children. And while the teacher thinks, what a good boy, he brought me an apple, the teacher also thinks very carefully about the girl in the last seat that comes in sullen and quiet with maybe a bruise and doesn't know how to bring an apple. And the teacher's there to help that little child too. So the hardest thing is to understand how God loves everyone. That's very interesting. Born again is a renewal of the mind. We are all sinners, therefore salvation starts with a change of mind to get out of our earthly thinking. Hence, look at the world now. God sees all thoughts. I don't know. I guess he sees things that we don't necessarily see. God flooded the world because he saw everyone's thoughts were evil except Noah. When we renew our minds, we invite God to live in us, and the Holy Spirit will guide. The Holy Spirit, See, I read something that you can't. Well, anyway, it's risky to talk about, but you can't make fun of the Holy Spirit. That's a sin, and I agree with that. Well, I don't know. He didn't kill everybody in the world, I don't think. But I don't know. See, I don't know what everybody says. Luke 12. I'm not trying to hold a vigil. I put this here for the light because otherwise my face is too dark. I don't know how we got off on this. We were talking about something, and then I wanted to bring up RFK's speech, and then it got into God, and I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable because and that's something I mentioned early on. I wish I had it. Some Roman thinker said something, and it made me realize that even back then, we're each on our own journey. We try to help each other out, but we're each on our own journey. And it's not for me to judge somebody else's. I have enough hard time understanding mine. All right, so maybe it's time. Can you comment on TIO one more time? Africa and Europe just waking up. What's TIO? What's TIO? Wall Street honks up. Are you talking about Tinto? Maybe Tinto. It's not coming, but you said Tingo, so maybe you're talking about Tinto. I believe that the mine for GTII, I assume I'm talking. Thank you, first time Jimmy. I assume you're talking about that. I think what's happening with the mine is, I guess it's more than one mine, by the way, is Trento. I don't know. All right, AC, hit the hay. I just don't know if I'm answering the right question. Can you comment on TIO? Trento? I don't know. I think who asked that question on GTI this week? Wall Street Hustle. I think I'm starting to get a little bit I wouldn't say excited, because I don't want to be disappointed, but I'm getting optimistic for GTII over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So yes, I'm excited to see what happens this week. On the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if Mighty Casey strikes out again, and all through Mudville, everyone's disappointed for one more week. Life, love, loneliness. Mr. T, that's the perfect journey. I don't know anything about Tingo, so I'll look it up for the next call. That's very interesting, Mr. T. I mean, I can okay, I had 2 minutes. I'm going to hang up in 2 minutes, but I can look at this, see if there's a chart here. Tingo Group. Stock charts are the last refuge of someone that doesn't know what they're talking about. But Comra International, there's the chart on TIO. And to me, that's not a bad looking chart. Let me get more time in there. Try 2 years. So for 2 years, for 1 year is all coming down, right? Then it rallies and comes back. The only thing you got to worry about here is that's a huge move up, and the correction can be severe. But if the markets were still the way they used to be, I would say at 240, 243, it's a good price to buy. But now that I don't know the short position in this stock. I have no idea. If the shorts are in it, they're going to try to crush it down. But if this is in the middle of a squeeze or some sort of buyback, there could be a lot more run in this. I don't know anything about the stock. Let's see how high it's ever been. Well, that's a thing. Look at it. Look how that's sort of a double top. Look what it did the last time it came up here. Came down, rallied down. This time it may break through. So, without knowing anything, what I would watch for here is to see if this pullback you can have a reversal in the pullback, maybe here, maybe down in the 240 range, 245, 250 range. And then you get 1 or 2 or 3 days where it snaps back up, and then I would try to see if it breaks out at $5.75, $6, and you could have a huge run. But don't listen to my advice on it. I don't know anything about the stock. It's obviously going to be volatile. And if you're trading it, I would trade it. I wouldn't invest in it at these prices. But anyway, I don't know. I'll look into it for the next call. I wrote it down. Hopefully I'll remember it. Well, that's Robert. I agree with you. When they go up quickly, they come down quickly. It could go down much further quickly. I agree with you. Speak to him. We discuss later. All new fundamentals. All right, Kamara. We'll do it next time. Did you miss anything in the last hour? No, except I'm about to hang up. I like that, Mr. T. Life, love, and loneliness. I don't enjoy loneliness, but well, Husker Power on DBMM, I want to look it up. Somebody said, I wrote it down somewhere, but somebody said they had a good ruling. So I'm intrigued by DBMM. The only thing I caution you is that stock's down at a price where it could be seller boxed. And all right, cheers. So it's just the caution, it may not be able to come back up, but I'm intrigued by DBMM, so we'll look up on that. Let me see what Jenny Rebecca just sent me. She said the movie AMC and GME is called Apes Together. Well, she's got a good point. You know, the lawyers all around are the same firms. So she's wondering if the Kramers would make a deal with FINRA or with to nail Alpine. A plea bargain, basically. And my short answer is yes. I think the Kramers will do anything to stay out of prison. And I think the last person you would want to be in a foxhole with, other than Justine Hurry or John Hurry, is one of the Kramers or the other guy. Thank you, Alfalfa Jones. What time is it? Does anyone see what time it is? Does anyone really care? No, it's 11. It's 11. The only Kramer I care about is Seinfeld. All right. All right, guys. It's 11:06, so I'm going to say so long, farewell. Ad Venus saying good night. I flit, I float, and da-da-da-da-da. Good night. Good night. So anyway, peace, love, and happiness, everyone. And thank you for tolerating a little journey down some of life's questions. And I think we do have hope for a good week in GTII, or a good month. And I'd rather be long than short it. May the odds be in your favor. All right. I'm gonna say good night to everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow. So cheers.